to kind of sign
Okay,
in.
you've got to track and trace, just an extra. That doesn't apply to the online audience. We don't need to track and trace you.
We don't need to track you.
Because we've already got your email address.
But I think also people or like businesses, they have their own approach to how they treat social distancing. For instance, I was out in Brighton a few weekends ago.
Yeah.
And some pubs were really kind of on it and some were still on it, but they didn't have quite so many procedures in place, which in a way makes it easier to access. But it also makes me think, are they doing everything they should be doing to stay safe? I don't know. Hello.
Come and take a seat. This is Talkaoke.
Talking about social distancing. You're very safe and distant over there.
Grab this socially distant table over here. We've got
Paul, another one.
We've got Fabian. We have got Margot.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
We've got this person here and this dog here. So come and take a seat. Come and get involved in this.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so let's just do the introductions. I need. What's your name?
My name is Mohammed.
Mohammed, and who have we got here? Do you want to just point the table down and say hello? Say your names.
All right. What's her name? Marvin.
And
what's the name? Sumayamin. Sumayamin.
No.
All right.
Okay, wishes to remain nameless. That's okay. You don't have to say your name here. And who have we got over here? What's your name?
My name's Amy.
Amy, welcome. So at the moment, we're just kind of chewing the fat. We've got a few subjects. We've got rainbows. We've got how difficult is everything with social distancing, including going to the pub. And I don't know, what any thoughts for a subject to kick off with? On this side, Mohammed, any thoughts?
Yeah, of course. It's, social distancing is not that much easier, basically.
Yeah.
Because
it's not easy at all.
No. Life is not normal, you know.
Yeah.
So all through the economy, social life, everything is breaking through. So everywhere is a hardship, basically. And my personal life is hampering as well, you know.
Yeah. In what sort of way?
In terms of economy, finance, then normal social life, you know.
Yeah.
Everything, because I used to go restaurant or somewhere in a like twice a week.
Yeah.
But now I'm not feeling that much easier, you know,
to
you're
go.
Not feeling.
Yeah. So and come and have a seat. Come and get involved in this. This is Talkaoke. At the moment, we just started, so it's a good time to join. We've got Mohammed and what was it? What's your name?
Marvin and Mayamin.
Marvin and Mayamin we've got over here, and we've got Amy, and we've got Fabian, we've got Margot, we've got Paul over here that's doing the honours with the track and trace.
Hello.
We're just talking about how tough, Amy, we're talking about how tough is it these days. It took us 4 hours to set this up. Normally it takes an hour. Because we've got normally we just have the one mic. This time we've got 7 mics. So, you know. Yeah, go on. Hang on. Let me turn you up. Yeah.
I think things do take longer with all the kind of extra measures in place, and I kind of wonder, how did we manage to live our lives so carefree before? And I really kind of miss those times. But I suppose we do have to stay safe, and we have to kind of use the hand gel, which I have here. So if anybody wants to use, please use it.
Yeah, and we've also got some waters because we've done our risk assessment, health and safety. If you want a
we've
water,
got an alcoholic spray, not for drinking, just for it's not to refresh, it's to disinfect.
Don't get it the wrong way round.
Yeah, please don't. But I think things do take longer, and I just wonder whether that's gonna push people further away, because before making a decision, am I going to a pub? Am I coming to this event? Am I just going to sit there going right, how long is it going to take me? Is it safe? Oh, God, it's like 10 p.m. already. Oh, never mind. Is it actually going to put people off more, this social distance?
Yeah, go on, Amy. Amy, go on.
Well, I actually work in events and I work in the music industry.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people that I know who are kind of going back to work.
Oh, hang on. Turning up the wrong person.
Right.
There you go. Go on.
I hear a lot of people saying that things are getting kind of back to normal for them, and things don't really feel weird, except that they're having to wear a mask and use some anti-bac.
Yeah.
But for us in our industry, like, we're still in this huge limbo of where we still can't go back to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I predominantly work in music festivals, and that was one of the first things to go.
Yeah.
You know, like Glastonbury cancelling was a massive thing, and we're still not sure if even our industry will recover again next year. So it's that side of it, being safe, putting in all the measures so events can happen and they can be safe, but then also thinking there's got to be a stage where we start getting back to some sort of normality, because right now there are 2 million people in the arts and event industries that are going to be out of a job by
2
October.
million?
2 million people.
Right, okay.
And you know, there's only so much crowdfunding and fundraising that you can do, and the government is saying, oh well, it's okay because you can open a music venue and you can open a theatre as long as you social distance. My friend has a theatre in Highgate and he's got 250 seats in his theatre, and with social distancing he can only fill 40 of them, and it's not in theatre and music. It's really difficult to make a profit anyway, but the margins are so small, you're losing so much money by putting on events. And so it's coming from that perspective as well, of when are we going to be able to start doing this again? So
even are we going to be able to start doing
yeah, and we understand things have got to be safe, but it's not financially viable for these places to open and put on these events.
So, just tell us your name.
Julian.
Julian.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have got Amy. We've got Paul. We've got Amy. We've got Marvin. We've got Mohammed and Miami and Mikey and Marco. That's a lot of M's. Come and have a seat up over here. Who knows what that is? Oh yeah, that's that interference of the radio lights, wasn't it? Anyway, so we're talking about how hard is it now, and we've got 2 million people. Is it really 2 million people working in what, like entertainment, theatre, music?
Yeah, everyone. When you know, it's not. Yeah. There's been a lot of things about venues, like trying to raise money to stay open, like big venues, even like the Clapham Grand, which is a huge venue in southwest London. Yeah. But it's not just the venues and the performers, it's all of the people that work behind the scenes, like the lighting technicians, the sound engineers, the stage managers, like all the big tours that have had to be cancelled, the amount of roadies and technical workers that don't have any work at the moment as well.
So selling ice creams as well.
You know,
just trying to bring in the younger audience.
Right? Yeah, the ice creams.
Yeah. Okay, Margot.
But you know how the government is doing the Eat Out to Help Out for the restaurants? I wonder what would that look like for like music venues and theatres? Is there anything the government can do other than like, here's the furlough scheme, no one is allowed to work, so that's completely useless, locally being sacked, so that's fine, that's good. But is the
Rock Out to Help Out?
Rock Out to Help Out could be something. Rock Out.
Okay, so could we do a rock out? Maybe someone is rocking out to help out over there. Someone agrees. Yeah.
All right, we're getting big kind of
Okay, so
big yes from this van.
Seats over here if anyone wants to come and sit down. Rick, how are you getting on the technical side? You having fun? Still working on it. Still working on it. That's good. Okay, so we're talking about rock out to Julian. Paul, what do you think about this idea? Rock out to help out. Would it work? Mohammed, about it? Would it work?
Yeah, it's like Eat Out, Help Out. You can apply in the different events, you know. Yeah. Like as she mentioned, Rock Out to Help Out. Yeah. You know, so like buy one get one free, one ice cream. You know.
Should it ice cream?
Yeah.
Well? Exactly. So the Rock Out to Help Out is not just the rocks, but the
I think it's a great idea, but I think what has to happen, it's something I've been trying to tout a long time, is al fresco living that Europeans have. Yeah. It's outsideness, because if you do it outside, you're getting away from that whole closed-in thing. So what happens is, if you actually start working out how to hold events when the weather isn't so good, which we're very good at in the UK, so have a different approach to it and be able to be more flexible.
So we should be rocking out outside
in a field.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like with music festivals, that's why they're so beautiful. But you can only really do them in the summer. But then the thing is when you're like, oh well, we'll just take this inside gig and we'll just do it outside in November, for instance, which sounds cool. Or maybe there can be loads of campfires, loads of heaters, make it really cozy. It might be really fun. But then you've got to think of all the costs that you're incurring to do those gigs, and then the ticket prices go up. Will people come? Then you're excluding part of your demographic, like, you know. And the government are giving money, like they offered a 1.5 billion pounds arts funding package, but they're funding like opera and the bigger venues, but the smaller grassroots venues, especially for music that are so important, they're not getting any funding. And it's like, and those are the venues where you go and see, you know, you get like when you go and see Oasis 30 years ago, and you know they're up and coming, and you'll pay a fiver to go see them. Those are the venues that will disappear, and then that will make it hard for musicians to come up. So it's all about cost, really.
We're going to get a final thought from Mohammed and Marvin. Yeah, go on. Have you got a final thought for us?
Basically, we have to do social distancing, no other option actually. But as long as we need to close these things actually, you know, because this situation is not gonna finish within very short time, but life should be goes on. Economy should be goes on. Everything is broken, you know. But the latest news from the WHO, they say it's like a kind of rumor, it's kind of flu. That's the normal flu. Okay, so life should be goes on as it is, as normal. Thank you very much.
More as it is.
Yeah. Otherwise, no other option actually. Okay. You know. Otherwise, everything is gone already. So let's carry on the life as it is.
Before you go, Mohammed, do you think we should just be? We're taking it a bit too seriously now. We should actually be.
Listen, it's cleanliness, sanitizing. It's a part of normal life, basically. It's not something extraordinary or special something, you know. It's like a part of normal life for the purifications of life, you know, for the cleanliness of daily life, actually. So do as it is and carry on as it is the life. That's it. That's my thinking, actually. That's my experience for last 6 or 4, 5 months. You know.
Yeah. Just carry on. Just do.
That's it. Yeah. Just carry on.
We've got a new face over here. So before, thank you,
Mohammed. Thank you very much. Happy to join here.
You're testing out a new mic.
Thank you.
We need to change the windshield on that one.
I'm not confident on this.
No, just tell us your name. What's your name?
My name is Zubair.
What's it?
Zubair.
Zubair. Okay, so we've got Margot, we've got Julian, we've got Paul, we've got Amy, we had Mohammed, that's Fabian on the phone, but that's a legitimate thing now because he's actually filming this. And we're talking about, can we go back to normal? What about the music industry, about theatre? Should it all just go outside, as Paul is saying? And how are we all going to survive? Are we all going to lose our jobs? Margot, have you got a point?
I wanted to ask Mohammed before he went with the girls, but I was just curious because, like you were saying, Amy, you know, some of the culture, kind of, you know, small scale before somebody becomes really famous, you know, all of that or a lot of that is going to possibly disappear. And I wondered, you know, whether that means that children will like miss out on some culture or experiencing culture, because, you know, if they can't go and, you know, enjoy creative activities and that kind of stuff, does that mean they're just going to sit at home bored or reliant on their parents to come up with like ever new things for them to do?
We're also we're gonna pass it on to Amy, and that question goes to everybody. But I feel like I've been slightly ignoring the online audience just because we were.
It's only one of me. It's all right. I think.
But have you got anything to say about this? Stephen, on the online side,
do you want to join us?
What do you think about what Amy's saying about all 2 million people are going to lose their jobs? And
it's a pop-up talk show. So just talking about.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether because arts might get, and you know, performing arts especially, might get more seasonal. Can you hear me? Okay. It might become more seasonal with
Take a seat for a few seconds.
outdoor activities in the summer when it's safe, and then everything closing up and getting a bit more hibernated in the winter. Whether we need to build temporary large outdoor structures like big marquees to have lots of outdoor events.
So should every park in a way have a marquee for this?
Yeah, massive, like a Millennium Dome type. Yeah. Not quite as big as that, but you know, that sort of large. So you're still outside though. So it's not. Well, you know, they'd have to monitor it, I suppose, but you're still technically outside because it's just a canopy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's put that.
You can hold events when it rains.
So we've got Zubair, and we've got Margot. What's your name?
Josephine.
Josephine, welcome, and Julian. And Paul and Amy, we've got a spare thing over there. We need to change the windshield on that thing now.
I will do that.
If you can remember where the windshields are. Julian, you've not said much, neither of you. Zuba, Josephine, have you got any views on this? What are we going to do? We were talking basically about all the music venues, there's all of the culture is getting closed down, and when's it going to open up, and how do we actually deal with it? How do we keep these people employed? How do we keep our culture going when all these closed down spaces are kind of, yeah. Go on, Julian, go on.
I mean, going back to the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, I like eating anyway, so I've used it quite a bit, and I think it does encourage people to get back to normality a bit, and it could be the same with music. I mean, people have kind of given up. I think, oh, we've got to stay at home, we can't go out, we can't go to music events. Maybe some incentive would help it, because people have kind of lost the habit of doing things, and they're frightened to go back to their old way of life. But in some ways it can go on, it's just obviously we're a bit more careful now, but there's no reason why it can't continue.
And that's what we're doing here, because normally everyone's huddled around the table, but we've had to have a second row of tables.
But it still worked,
I think what's really, especially with music and arts and events, is that there's so much restrictions being put on these cultural events, but then you can still go on a plane and sit next to a stranger. And so it's like, well, how can you justify getting on a bus or a plane and sitting next to someone with a mask on, but then you can't sit next to someone with a mask on in a theatre? So it just feels a little bit unfair, and it just feels like our industry is just a little bit overlooked.
Not taking culture seriously enough. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, the Conservatives, well, yes. I could have said that 3 years ago.
Okay, so the Conservatives were never taking culture seriously enough. I mean, do other people agree? Is that really part of the problem, that we don't take culture seriously enough?
I think they take their own version of culture very seriously, and everyone else can go elsewhere.
What is their own version of culture?
Well, it's certainly not your average working man's or woman's.
Okay, but give us an example, though.
Well, I think they like to talk about high culture, but then only in terms of words. So they'll sort of make things that they'll talk about heritage, but then they'll think about trying to build on it just to make a few bob. So that's the sort of analogy I draw generally with them. They're free market thinkers.
Right, okay, so they're more interested in the money than the highfalutin concepts. Have you got something to say on this? Come. You're saying it's an interesting point. Josephine, Julian, what do we think of, are there different, we talked about, come and get involved in this. Are we taking culture seriously enough? That's what we're talking about. Are there different kinds of culture? Is there like a Tory culture? And what would is it a people's culture? What's the opposite of the Tory culture?
Well, you've got socialism, communism, whatever you like, really.
Well, they've got different cultures.
They are cultures, political cultures.
Okay, all right.
But you also have artistic cultures and how they go on. So your sort of work is a whole culture in itself, the festival lifestyle.
Yeah.
Festival workers work in a certain part of the year. I mean, like migrant workers also work certain parts of the year, and then they go off to somewhere else. So, you know, it's a different way of working. It's not all the year round. There's just high spots and low spots. But with different types of culture, you have different attitudes on how that works. And, you know, we don't have opera in the UK.
What do you mean we don't have opera?
Well, we do, but it's all in German and Italian.
Okay, so operas are kind of like imported culture.
Yeah.
I think Josephine can...
Josephine, what do you think of opera?
Have
You've
you?
been to an English opera? What is it?
What was it like?
But if you're not, they've got subtitles anyway.
There you go.
I mean, do you agree with this thing that Paul's saying, that there's different kinds of culture and the Conservatives have only got a very narrow view of what culture is? Zubra, give us a final thought before you go. What's your final thought on all of this? You can
Yeah.
Are you interested in culture? Do you think it's important?
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah?
That's diversity.
I mean, what was the last piece of culture you got involved in?
I remember. I'm not very interested.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, so where do we want to go from here? Maybe we could. What can we draw from this? That was a little gag there.
It's a nice gag about drawing.
We don't normally we've got sound effects pad for the come and have a seat on the table chat. We're talking about, are we taking culture seriously enough? Is the culture of this country going to die because of COVID? That's what we're talking about. So come and have a seat on the table of chat. We have got Amy, we've got Paul, we've got Julian, we've got Josephine, we've got Margot, we've got Fabian. Fabian, you've got a view on all of this?
I think.
Hang on. I need to.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. I think it's definitely being suppressed for everyone staying in home, being separate. It's usually when we're with other people, our cultures kind of get mixed up into one big thing. But on the other side, as soon as people start getting out, I think because we've been suppressed for so long, as soon as we get out, everyone's going to go crazy, and cultures is just going to explode again with everyone going out parties.
So you think there's going to be an explosion of culture
so, definitely,
once the gates are open?
Yeah.
I think there will.
Hang on.
And I, for one, am very excited for that to happen.
Yeah.
But I think in the meantime, when the government aren't offering financial support and stability for those in the cultural sector, and they're not going to extend the furlough scheme past November, even though these businesses can't function and operate as they normally would, then the thing is, a lot of these venues or art centres or festivals just aren't going to be there next year because they're not going to be able to reopen. Right? There's three of the biggest and most famous music venues in Manchester are on threat of closing now. Yeah. And so it's like, it's all right to say, oh well, when next year everyone's going to want to party. It's like, well, that's great, but there's nothing to keep those places going. Yeah. When some in London, a music venue I know of has to pay £80,000 a month in rent, and they have to pay that. Where's that money coming from if they have no income? They're not allowed to open. It's thinking about it like that. There will be no places to go.
Okay, so everyone will be out there ready to party, but all the venues will be closed, gone forever. Come and have a seat. Come and get involved in this. Have a seat. We've got a table for you with a fresh windshield on it. Go on. Hang on. Yeah, go on. Keep it smaller.
Keep it smaller, because if they go into big, things, we're going to go into a second lockdown. So maybe smaller. More often.
More smaller things. Yeah.
I think it's just about cost at the end of the day. If you've got a nightclub like Fabric that has got a capacity of 3,000 people, and you're going to only open it for 500, but then you still have to have door staff, you still have to have DJs, production team, lighting, bar staff, probably employ more staff to enforce social distancing and making sure people are washing their hands, etc. Then the venue's losing money by opening. This is the problem.
Okay.
So
well, we've got some new faces over here, so let's just. What's your name?
Sophie.
And
I'm Matt.
Welcome. We've got Amy, we've got Paul, we've got Julian, we've got Josephine, we've got Margot, we've got Fabian, I'm Mikey. If you've got a point on the social media, come and join. Everyone's welcome to join. Come and get involved in this. Is our culture going to die? That's the question that we're talking about at the moment. What's he saying? What are you saying, Josephine?
Maybe the nightclubs, because I think that would be hardest to control. Whereas the theatres might be easier to open with social distancing, because people are sitting in one place. At nightclubs, they'll all be having a drink. And
what happens to the nightclubs then? The government
but that's not.
It's still a big part of British culture.
Okay. Is it nightclubs? Is it a big part of British culture?
Who goes to nightclubs?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, that's the bottom line. It's like if yeah.
What I mean, what do you mean by that when you say that? That is it not just the nightclubs?
Everything from stand-up comedy to live music to DJs playing in clubs. Everything has sort of been decimated, had to adapt, and they are going to suffer for a long period of time.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
I mean, hang on. Yeah, go on.
Like, not just that. Everything has suffered, isn't it? Not just the art.
So, but are the arts suffering more? I think that's what we're talking about. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. Is our culture dying? That's what we're talking about. Because of COVID. You've got a point over here, Margot. Go on.
Yeah, I never thought of it, but until you said the Fabric's got 3,000 people coming there, and it just makes me think everything's becoming so large for profit, like supermarkets. You can't have just a supermarket, you can't have just a local shop. It's too small, not enough choice. We need more choice, we need bigger stuff, we need more money coming in. And it just makes me think like, yeah, sure, there's people's jobs, but do we really need to do things on such a massive scale?
Mega club and
exactly. And a Big Mac. Like, do we need things on like large scale, or can we strip back and be more DIY and just kind of start with, 10 people connecting, but really, really well, with social distancing and face masks and all that? I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering about that. That's all.
Okay, so could we just go smaller scale? Maybe those larger venues are going to suffer a bit more, but the smaller venues alive in a way, they're kind of almost like the little seed that are going to grow into the big shoots later on.
It's like the venues such as Fabric, got such a massive, they're a massive part of dance and rave culture in the UK, and then for them to just say to them, oh well, you're too big now, and then everything they've built, their brand, all everything over like the past 30 years, it's just like, oh well, that's just gone now because you're too big. Like, is that fair? That is rave culture is a massive part of the British dance scene, and is that fair to just go, oh well, you're too big now, so you can't do that. But if you're a tiny club, you can open. So,
but it's like Amazon. I mean, I want stuff now, and I want all of it delivered to me in an hour, and it's my right to demand that. But do I need to get it, kind of thing?
I think you're mixing up the points here, in that like Amazon is a massive corporation making loads of money, whereas Fabric is an independent nightclub. It's just you can just fit a lot of people in it. It's like Glastonbury Festival is an independent festival, but you can sell 200,000 tickets.
We're talking about is Fabric the Amazon of clubbing at the moment?
Oh my God!
Hang on, let me just turn you up. What's your name first of all? We've got Fabian, we've got Matt, we have got, was it? Sophie, Amy, Paul, Gillian, Josephine, Margot.
And Daniel.
Daniel, what do you think about, because what we're worried about here is that all the clubs are closing down because they can't afford to open. Is it a loss for us to lose clubs like Fabric and all these big theatres as well?
It's an absolute disappointment, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel violated.
You feel violated? Yeah?
And honestly...
Do you... Yeah, you're so emotional. Okay. Fair enough. Come back. If you... Yeah. Well, maybe he won't be able to go to a nightclub when he's ready. That's the thing.
Can I?
Well, yeah, go on.
So by closing down all of these big clubs, it's driving that kind of scene underground, and that's what's going on a lot at the moment. Is places across the country running illegal raves, actually because people aren't being given the opportunity to go out and party in more controlled circumstances. So.
Okay, so is it driving the situation underground? That's what we're talking about, Margot.
It's just latest observation where I live in Peckham actually, but we've noticed that there are people, there's like, there used to be some housing and they knocked this down so we can see onto like this empty space, and there's been nothing going on there for ages, except recently we have people going in there like in 2s or 3s, and they have a bonfire there, and it seems to be like, I'm not going to tell you where it is yet, but at first my flatmate was like, oh my God, we must call someone, and then we thought, like, why would we call someone? They're just having a bonfire in a space that's going to be used for developers soon, and these people just like take the tops off, just dance with that. Anyway, it just made me think of, this is happening because people can't go to a club and can't do other things. They're just having a bonfire, and it's something quite, very primeval about it. I don't know, and very of human nature.
Is there a bonfire of our existing culture of opera and the rest of it for this more primal fireside culture?
I think it's a burning subject, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really,
it's a burning subject. Exactly. So, what do we think? Is that a more in a way? Are we just going to have this underground? I mean, I know like there's people that have got jobs and they're going to be destitute and kicked out of their houses and businesses closing. But at the same time, is it going to spawn a kind of new, almost like DIY culture where you party in a field rather than in a nightclub?
That's the beauty about artists, is that they always kind of come into their own and feel super creative when you're feeling like really oppressed or something really like bad, like this pandemic is happening. There's a lot of amazing work that is going to come out of this. It's just, for me, it's just like the government just giving some support to the arts and culture sector, basically. So it will survive, because it's like when you say, oh, well, next year we're all going to go out and party because we're ready for it, but there'll be nothing left. I mean, you know, Michael Eavis has already said that Glastonbury might not happen. If it can't happen next year, it might be over. That's the biggest music festival in the world. The amount of revenue Glastonbury Festival brings in is insane. People come from all over the world to go to that festival.
And how long has Michael Eavis been working in the field?
Well, so Glastonbury's been, well, it would have been its 40th anniversary this year.
The fields! Oh,
50, sorry, 50 years, yeah, sorry.
Okay, Stephen online has been listening. He got the gag, at least. Come a bit closer. You can still be socially distanced. So where do we want to go with this conversation? Julian, you've not said much.
Can I join in?
Yeah, go on, Paul. Paul's going to jump in.
I was just thinking that there's a saying about comfort being the enemy of creativity.
Is comfort the enemy of creativity?
I heard that somewhere. And it's sort of true, because whenever I've been comfortable, I've never really thought about doing anything. And I know artists now have actually gone and given each other a bit of solidarity with this sort of make a piece of artwork for 200 quid and sell it, and then when you get
the money, you spend it on more art.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
but you're just a beautiful virtual was it a virtuous loop?
Okay, a loop of virtue.
Yeah, and it's great for the artists to do that, but it's tougher when you're talking about events. Okay. So I actually heard about a silent disco near me recently. Yeah, it was just a bunch of kids in the park, and I thought that was quite nice, but it's also a little bit sad at the same time. It just seems...
Why is it sad?
Well, you're all together but all alone.
A bit selfless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a bit isolated, aren't you? In a way?
You,
well, I mean, is that the way we're going, just in life, sort of isolating ourselves? The silent disco's like, I guess... just.
No, they're not new. No.
But it's forcing people to reimagine the kind of entertainment space. All the top DJs have resorted to virtual streaming. At the moment, they're doing it for charity because it seems wrong to be asking lots of people for their money to essentially have a watered down version of what they would normally experience. But it's a Dickensian thing we're going through. It's an adaptation. It's being forced to adapt. Yeah.
Do you pay money for an online DJ set?
I would actually, if it was not just a set. I don't know if anyone's caught Nick Cave alone at Ali Pali. That is a prime example of where it needs to be content first. I'm getting exclusive insight into a different offering of someone's artistic capabilities. Yeah, but it's like you're not just coming to see a concert, you're coming to see a piece of content, and I think that's the way things are going.
We've got a new face over here. What's your name?
My name is Rodney.
Rodney, welcome.
Thanks.
Have you got a view on this? Have you been listening?
I mean, I've been back and forth, but I've been kind of picking up bits. So we're talking about the live streaming side of DJ sets and music.
Would you pay money to have a live stream set, or at least an artist singing down the line?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, okay. I would.
Cool. I've got a point. Yeah, kind of, effectively, isn't it? Josephine, what's your point?
When is Poplar Union opening?
When is Poplar Union opening? I don't know.
That's the aim. So, yeah, our October programme will start opening.
Okay, well, I mean, this fits in with what we're talking about. How are you going to deal with this? Is it financially, is it going to work? Are you going to have the same problems that Fabric's going to have?
I mean, yeah, I guess.
You're not ready. You're not sure.
I'm not sure. I mean, everything changes obviously on a weekly basis. So
yeah.
I mean, at the moment, it's looking like we can open within, but then obviously, you know, stripped down audiences, obviously. So to new capacity, where it would probably be, I don't know, maybe a third of the capacity that we could normally have.
Right.
So.
Okay, some questions about the cafe as well, yeah, go on.
No, we just want to know when it's opening. There's plenty of space, and I don't understand why it's not open now.
The reason is because it's getting a refurbishment. So they've closed as of today, but then this shipping container just behind me is going to serve as a kind of, in the meantime, kind of cafe.
I can hardly
starting from
contain
next
myself.
week. Yeah, me too.
Right. Okay, so this is going to be. This is exactly. Someone's got to keep the fire going. You know, fire burning, not just the bonfire people. Go on. What are you saying?
No, but it's nice to see that the people who live locally, they do come to cafe. They do want to know about what's happening here locally, because I think if one of the things kind of came out of this lockdown and this situation is that I certainly started looking more what is around me, what's happening in Peckham, what's happening here in Poplar where I work, and I feel like I just got a slightly more local perspective on what's happening. I feel like people are talking together a little bit more, but I'm also worried whether we're just going to drift apart and it's just going to be silent discos everywhere, and
but
so
like individual silent discos, we're all going to be in different parks dancing.
Because it just reminds me of this thing, when you sometimes go to a party and someone's like, oh, have you heard this one? Oh, let me just get on YouTube. And then that from that moment onwards, you're just going to be going into some rabbit hole of somebody's mind. Like, oh, have you heard this one? Have you heard this one? And everybody's just like waiting there for the next YouTube video to start up. And it's like, and meanwhile, it could be having conversations. It could be interacting. That's why you need a DJ as well.
Okay. Okay, go on. Yeah, go on.
But I got back from Spain 2 weeks ago, but I was out there for 5 weeks, and whilst I was over there, the government changed its mind on travel.
Yeah.
And all in the media, it was like, oh, Spain's really dangerous. There's loads of COVID cases, blah, blah, blah. And when you come back to the UK, you've got a quarantine. But in Spain, it's so strict. Like, you have to wear a face mask on the street. If you don't, civilians will come up to you and tell you to put your mask on. Police will chase you down the street. If you don't have a mask on, you have to anti-bac as soon as you go in somewhere and out, and there's people policing that. And then I come back to the UK, and it's like, you've got a quarantine now, and no one is wearing a mask, not even in the shops. So it's like for me, it's like our government making other countries sound worse to make them seem better, because I've been in France and Spain where the rules are so much more harsh, and then over here it's like, oh, you've got a quarantine when you come back, but we're not going to police anyone wearing a mask. It's interesting.
We've got a new face at the table over here. So we've got Rodney, we've got Matt, we've got Sophie, we've got Amy, we've got Paul, we've got Julian, we've got Josephine, and we've got Margot. Tell us your name. I'm Mikey as well.
I'm Stacia.
Hang on, let me turn you. Hang on. This is all very complicated. Go on.
Stacia.
Stacia, welcome. So at the moment we were talking about, is culture going to die? And, are all the clubs and theatres and everything going to close down? We're outside of Poplar Union. They're operating at a third capacity. But now we sort of moved on to, like, how is our country actually dealing with COVID, and are they actually even really, like, taking it seriously as they should be? Over here, yep.
I've got a theory that you can't be too. I think Brits don't respond very well to rules. This is my observation. Right. For instance, Switzerland. I'm not from Switzerland, but Switzerland is similar to what you're describing in Italy. I think me and my friend once tried to cross on the red light. A person stopped us, and another person stopped us, and a policeman was there, and we were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And we were quite shocked. No, the police was just there because police is like really present there. Yeah. And then, so we went back to where we were crossing from, waiting for green light, and this guy stood next to us, and you could hear an accent. And he was like, oh, this police country, I hate it, the bastards.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he empathized, but he didn't break the rules. But I've got a feeling that in Britain, people are just, they're much more emancipated in the sense that, you know, they've got their own mind and they don't need to be told by the authority what to do. And therefore, if you tell people to be like, oi, where's your mask? You know, somebody chased. I think people would just revolt. I really think that, you know.
Okay, so what you're saying, and what I'm picking up from that is you're saying Britain is not a nation of rule followers as such.
Most of the shops I've been in, they're wearing masks.
What's that?
Most of the shops I've been in have been wearing masks.
Yeah.
What I don't understand in all these people that are travelling, it's meant to be essential travel only.
Yeah.
So.
But I guess it's what's deemed is essential, isn't it? I mean, we came here in the van. Is this essential?
But going to another country, that is meant to be essential travel only.
Okay.
And that's not happening.
Right, okay. So are we really adhering to the rules? Are we following the rules?
I feel like we're not taking it seriously here.
I think my point is that it was watching and reading the media that was like, right, if you're in Spain now, like, you have to quarantine when you come back because the COVID cases are so high. But then upon being there, seeing how strict it was like, well, the Spanish have really taken this seriously.
Yeah.
And then coming back to the UK, because I drove back, so the first service station I went to, like, there's just no one in a mask in the service station.
Yeah.
Like, no one. And it was really weird for me. So I've just spent 5 weeks visiting family with a mask on. So it was just a bit, I just find it a bit odd that it's inconsistent. Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion about why that is? And disclosure here that I'm a doctor who's been writing guidelines for COVID over the last few months.
Well, we've got the perfect person here.
For pregnant women, not for the whole population.
Okay, but we can I guess we can spread it out to the rest of the population.
Yeah, we can. So I completely get what you're saying, and I think our government, unfortunately, right from the beginning, has not taken any of this very seriously. But in terms of the public and mask wearing, I think the basic problem there is that for the first few months, the government and the doctors and the public health were telling the whole country that masks don't work and there's no point in wearing it. And then there's suddenly been a switch around that actually there is a little bit of mounting evidence that what masks do is stop you giving COVID to someone else, but they don't protect you from COVID, and they still don't protect you from COVID. So the motivation to wear a mask is to protect other people.
Right.
But there's been a lot of confusion in the country because there's been mixed messages from the government.
Yeah, I think
we've got our online audience. Hello, Stephen.
Hello. If I understood it correctly, I think one of the reasons that the government were dubious was that this idea of risk management, if people wore masks, they would then feel it was a bit safer to get closer to people. So it's down to people's behaviour as well. They've got to wear masks and still keep distant. And I think the government were worried that they wouldn't.
So it's a bit like this thing with the cycle hats that if...
Yeah, it just, what was it called? It's risk...
Risk thingy, yes.
Yeah,
so does it actually just encourage people to take more risks if they're wearing masks? Was that the case in Spain? Were they getting closer, the Spaniards, to you? No?
People were being super careful. It was just, I think it was being away from the UK and reading all the stuff in the media about how Spain was a hotspot, and then and then coming back here thinking, wow, everyone must be taking it really seriously here and wearing masks and stuff. And then you come over and it's like nothing's happened here in the UK.
Each country is behaving differently as to where they are on their COVID journey to a certain degree as well.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing to be said.
Where are we on our COVID journey? Let's ask the expert.
We had the biggest peak by far in the whole world, I think, and still have.
Does that mean we're the world leaders, and in which case we can move on a bit further? Does that?
But given the fact that we had the biggest peak, we're now at a low and pretty constant and low, whereas a lot of the rest of Europe are having a second peak. That's not happening here yet.
Okay.
That's not to say it won't happen. It's not happening here yet. Countries like Spain and France are currently faring worse than the UK, but they had a far better time first time round.
Okay, so they kind of acted a bit more swiftly, so therefore Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Stacia, have you got anything to add here? Any of these? Yeah. Hang on. Let me turn. Hang on. Yeah. Go on. Yeah. Go on.
So I'm American, and I've not made an essential journey back to America since all of this started. So I've only experienced the UK. I haven't been abroad at all since then. And I was very worried initially because I felt like the direction from above and the rules were very amorphous compared to what I'm used to, which would be usually a far more direct command. You must do this, and here are the consequences, and they're going to be very stiff. And when I heard our prime leaders say, please practice good British common sense, I was really, really worried about how that would actually show up. But I have to admit, I've been very impressed. And again, I've only experienced London, really, not just the UK, but just London. I haven't been anywhere during this time. But I do think that considering that the rules are not very hard and fast, most people do seem to be behaving pretty sensibly.
So you think the common sense thing is actually working?
I think it actually does. From in my observation, I do think that, you know, there could be clearer guidelines, because I think that it's legitimate that people are confused.
Which you seem to give sort of slightly unclear guidelines.
In my, relative to what I grew up with and am used to, yes, it is very much open to interpretation. I suggest we might want to try this, which would be disastrous in the US because everyone would immediately seek a loophole and just out of, you know.
Or something.
Yes, something like that.
So the common sense thing might actually be working. I don't know, what do other people think about that? We can ask Sophie, our resident expert. How do we have the level of common sense for that to actually work? What do people think?
There's no harm in a bit of nudging. I mean, the fact that I have to wear a face mask in a shop makes me wear a face mask in a shop. I hate wearing face masks, and it's probably a good thing that I have to.
Okay, so you think it's kind of okay how it's going?
I think it is too laid back. I spent quite a bit of time in Japan way before all of this, and it's normal to wear a face mask. At the time, I thought, well, that was a bit strange, but looking back, I can see. Yes, it is. I think it's a good thing.
I suppose, and you'll be able to feed in on this. There's a minimum amount of time it takes to change behaviours, either within oneself or in society. You know, it's going to take with a bit of policing and some probably bigger stickers. It takes a long time to implement behavioural and societal change. You know, that's the thing. It's still new.
But is that going to become normal even after COVID's gone? Then do you think, to wear a mask and to just go into a shop with a mask on?
I think so.
Okay, everyone's saying yes. That's I'm finding
after
that.
a winter spike,
okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So you think that will just become a normal thing if you go into a shop, wear a mask?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what you're saying about the policing of it is interesting, because I think when I was in Spain, there was a big police presence, and they are telling people to put their masks on, and I rarely saw anyone without one the whole time I was there. Whereas here, I've read that there are the police, that they don't want to police it, but then also the people in venues and shops are not willing to police it either, which I get. If you're working in Tesco's and then you've got someone coming in doesn't want to wear a mask, you want to have a confrontation at work with that person and put yourself in danger, where it's just a different vibe over in Spain, and people, I think people listen to each other more, whereas here it's kind of a bit more like, oh, you can't tell me what to do. Do you know what I mean?
Well, even on the signs on the way into the tube, it quite clearly says it's mandatory to wear a mask. Yet no one's actually making that happen. Really, it's what when it becomes law, I guess, is the difference, isn't it?
I mean, it's a different understanding of mandatory in a way, isn't it? Yeah.
Accountable for themselves as well. They, you know, we don't have the police presence to man or tell everybody to wear a mask. And there's too many people as well. But if people took accountability and for themselves, and then that would help everyone else and would help the NHS.
I mean, what do you think about this idea that British people have generally got that common sense and that sort of, in a way, that kind of pragmatic approach where if 95% of people do it, it's kind of okay?
Yeah, it's a bit like us with queuing, isn't it? They don't do that in other countries, but here we queue.
Yeah, so it's like part of that queuing mentality, maybe.
I think that's a very good example, yes, because there are not many places in the world where people do self-queue and actually take it really seriously. And, you know, there's some sense of just not wanting to be noticed to break a rule, even if a person won't confront you. I think it's a very anti-confrontational culture. So there's a lot of disincentive to directly tell anyone to do anything, but there's also this mentality that, you know, I never had before moving here, that you're aware that people will notice even if they don't say anything.
Yeah, they just kind of tut or something like
They
that.
do tut and murmur, yes.
They kind of project something somehow, yeah.
It's funny because I've not experienced that. I think the Brit is really kind of, you can come in with like a shoe on your head. It doesn't really matter. In fact, my friend actually does it up in Yorkshire, which turns some heads.
Yeah.
Anyway, he sometimes wears a shoe on his head. But that's a different story. But in Poland, people jump queues, and that's like a done thing. And if you kind of looked away and somebody's now in front of you, then you're the loser who kind of, you know, missed out on, you know. It's a very different mentality in that way. Actually, if you kind of do something against the law, then that makes you, then you're a hero in some kind of weird sense.
Right.
And if you obey the law, it's like, well, why'd you, you know? It's changing now. It's a bit more kind of, you're a sucker.
Yeah.
But it's been like this. If you jaywalk, then you're someone. Although it is changing now because you get heavily fined.
Right. Okay. So it's different attitude to the law. I said it's a different attitude, just in case. Yeah. Is it the law? Is it?
On public
It's
transport
finable.
or in indoor places, yes, you can be fined with a £100 fine for not wearing it, but it's not enforced.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so it's the law, but it's not enforced.
Yeah, it's partly because there are exemptions, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, the medical condition. So then it gets complicated. You've got to ask everybody, so what is your medical condition? Have you got some sort of certificate? So it's just too difficult. That's partly why they're not enforcing it, isn't it? I think.
And what do you think about this, Stephen? You hopefully listening to the conversation. Do you think we've got it right? Is it about our sort of common sense, pragmatic mentality?
Well, it's not universal, this common sense, I don't think. Like, you know, you see people on buses with masks, but they're not covering their nose and their mouth, and they're talking on their mobile phones.
Yeah.
The most, you know, you've got to be talking to a mobile phone, and that's the time you should be wearing a mask, because while you're talking, you're projecting aerosols and everything. Can you not your mask and talk into your phone, you know? Yeah.
Okay, someone maybe needs to design like a phone holder mask all in one thing, so you can talk into the phone inside a kind. Yeah, eye mask, exactly, eye mask. We've just come up with a concept. There we go. That's okay. Over here, Josephine.
No, I'm going. Sorry.
Oh, final thought. Give us a final thought then. What's your final thought for all of this? How do you feel about the future? Is it going to be a future without culture? Is it going to?
I just think that they need to. They could start opening on a smaller scale outside.
Yeah, do stuff outside. I think everyone's saying that, and we are outside. Do come and join in, by the way. This is Talkaoke. It's a free-form talk show.
Very interesting.
Thank you, Josephine. Thanks for getting involved. And we've got a dog participant, another dog participant. So where do we go with this conversation? Do we want to carry on talking about this idea of the British mentality? Do we want to talk about... Yeah, go on. Yep. Number 3, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I've always had a couple of thoughts about these things. So I've always thought that people are stupid, but individuals are clever.
Right.
And that's a sort of a general psychology thing. So we get into herds, we get into groups. Oh, I don't like to say herds. But we get into groups and we tend to sort of outsource ourselves. We tend to just follow a crowd.
Right.
They've actually got fractal... Hey!
Sorry.
It's all right. They've actually got pictures of how crowds form fractals, their own little spaces that they make.
Yeah.
So what happens is we do sort of link up, but when individuals don't, like awkward in that sense, they actually have a little bit of more...
So you think if people are more individualistic, they would behave more in
Well,
a
I
more
think we're caught
common sense
between
way?
a bit of a few things there, because we're caught between this sort of commonality in it, and I don't like the word community either, but that sense of others, people around you, and thinking about others, and then we're caught between this sort of individual, what about me?
Right.
Sort
so
of
there's
approach.
you think more, but maybe you think more about yourself.
Well, yeah, and when you talk about culture, there's a general consumer culture which only deals with the individual.
Yeah.
So there's no dealing with people as a whole. There are elements of that. I mean, it goes back a bit to your rave culture and festivals, how they actually are. It's a well-known thing that when you get people into a church or you're singing together or choirs or dancing togetger, they all sort of bond.
Yeah, there's a connection.
There's a connection. Yeah.
Which is what makes
what
makes it so special.
Yeah.
And I think I get what Josephine was saying, but I think it's just remembering that just because you're not into that culture, it doesn't mean that it's not important. Like, I'm not really into like Bhangra music, but there still should be support for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you don't go to Fabric, then that's cool. You're not into it, but there still should be the support for that, because it is part of our culture and it is important to a lot of people, and it is that sense of, just because it's that individualistic thing where it's like, oh well, it doesn't matter to me, so it doesn't matter. It's like, well, it matters to someone. So yeah, but I've got to shoot now because my dog is getting very restless. So.
Okay, well, is that your final thought?
My final thought.
Thanks very much for joining.
Thank you.
Anything to throw into where we might go next with this conversation? No, I guess is the answer to that. So where someone else? Oh, yeah. Okay.
I've got a.
Oh, hang on. Let me just. You are number. Number 4. That's right.
No,
Okay.
just to say goodbye. I just have to go. Got something I have to do. I'm just down the road.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm a local.
Any final thought on all of this? What?
Well,
I
mean, I've been in, as everyone has. I've been, locked down for a long period, totally isolated, and I'm just very happy that things are starting to open up a bit, and I think it's good that they are, and as long as people are careful, that's the way it should go. And I just hope things, I hope that music venues and things don't die out, that we can keep things going. I know a lot of businesses have already gone bankrupt, but I'm just hoping that basically we just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's it, Grace.
Okay, well, we'll certainly be keeping going.
Well, I might see you later.
We're here.
I'm just down
as
the
we
road.
say, we're here. We're here all afternoon. So if you have a second wind, do come back. Thanks very much for joining in. But there is still the question: where do we go from here? What do we talk about? Do we want to carry on the COVID chat? Do we want to talk about something else? Come and have a seat. Come and get involved in this. Where do we go from there? Any thoughts?
Can I just say something?
Go on.
Yeah. We may as a country be satisfied maintaining an R value of near to 1. I get the feeling that that's what we may continue doing, because that's the habit we seem to be forming, and that it's okay as long as it's not way above 1, as long as the average is somewhere around 1 or just under. Which is all very well, as long as there are the medical facilities to deal with the people that do get ill. But it does restrict us a bit. I mean, I'm talking personally. I can't visit Guernsey at the moment, which is where I'm from. I haven't been able to visit Guernsey all year. I would normally go 3 times a year to see my family. Guernsey is way ahead of us. It's moved out of lockdown. It's now opened up. But they quarantine people coming in because they're very, understandably, very protective of their status. But they're not going to let me in, not while the R value is anywhere near 1. I can't see myself getting to Guernsey for the foreseeable future. Well, we're going to make that. Sorry, I've lost you. You lost your sound, Mikey.
Myself down. What happens if you go to Guernsey now?
Oh, they'll quarantine me for 2 weeks, so that's my holiday gone.
Right. Okay. And is it going to be a serious quarantine, or is it going to be like a British quarantine?
It'll be self-isolation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They might bring it down to 1 week, but they might bring it down to 1 week. But that.
Yeah. I guess it's a small enough island. Everyone can see what everyone else is doing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's easy for them to control their borders. It was nipped it in the bud.
Yeah. Okay, so Guernsey's doing a little better, it seems, than the mainland UK. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. This is Talkaoke. Come and join us. We've got Sophie, we've got Matt, we've got Rodney, we've got Stacia, we've got Margot, and we've got Paul and Mikey. Come and have a seat. Yes, bring him along. Is it him? I don't know. Yeah, bring the little one. Okay, Margot, you got something to say?
No, I think it's an interesting and important consideration about holidays, because people don't have an infinite number of holiday days.
Yeah.
And maybe that needs to change. I mean, you know, people who are fortunate enough to be able to work from home, that's really great. But then if you do want to go away somewhere and suddenly, oh wait, yesterday was no quarantine and today is like 14 days, like what are you going to do? So maybe we should just have longer holidays.
Okay, longer holidays. Is that going to work?
Shorter working days as well.
Yeah, my flatmate, he's just gone back to work recently. He works for jewelry wholesalers, and he hasn't got any holiday to go to. He's had 3 months on furlough, and basically everyone in his company is now fighting for the holiday periods. So basically, those who haven't booked their holidays already, they're stuffed.
Right.
Effectively.
Come and have a seat. Come and join him. We've got bicycle parking. Okay, so holidays are kind of out unless we somehow extend holidays or make life a permanent holiday.
Shorter working weeks.
Yeah.
In the UK, but
yeah. Have you gone on holiday? Anywhere?
We're looking at going in a week's time on holiday, but we haven't booked anything
right. Because you don't know what's happening.
We want to book somewhere where we're not going to get quarantined if we come back from it.
So
we're leaving it right to the last minute.
So you're thinking about going abroad?
It's either going to be Skegness or the Bahamas. We're not sure yet.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it could be both. Maybe it could
going back to the holiday point, though. I think one thing that has come out of this is obviously the evidence is there to demonstrate that people actually work better at home. And when they're in charge of their own time, they'd be more productive. Even the CEO of Twitter says that if you don't ever have to come back to work in the office ever, if you don't want to.
Right.
I think we're going to see a lot of big businesses who are going to sell up property, sublet to smaller companies. I think it's going to completely revolutionise the way that people manage their time and what's achieved, 4-day weeks, all that kind of stuff. So it does open up a kind of larger conversation about what holidays and how people spend their time.
Okay, are you working from home?
Yeah, predominantly, yeah.
Are you going to be doing that for the foreseeable?
No, because the nature of my job predominantly means that I need to be, actually most of the time I can be working from home, but if I'm going out shooting stuff, I need to be in the presence of other people and filming things.
Okay, so writing the emails you can do at home.
Yeah, or the development or anything like that.
Yeah, go on.
It's a really interesting point, that, because what I've been thinking about is how the current state of development for new builds are pretty much, I call them dormitories. They're effectively small flats.
Yeah.
And what happens there is that if you're a flat sharer and you work at home, it's not always going to happen. And there's a lot of people who just can't manage that scenario.
Yeah.
A couple that live together in a one-bedroom apartment and having both worked from home over the last 6 months, it's a bit of a nightmare. If you've both got a phone call, a video call at the same time on the same day, and you've only got one communal space, the other one ends up sitting on the bed taking a video call, which doesn't look very professional, and
the other one's
it's
on
problematic.
On the toilet.
It really doesn't suit everybody. There's the interesting point about is it more environmental to work from home because you're not travelling, you're not consuming fuel to travel to work. On the other hand, it's a balancing act. 'Cause if you're at home, you're consuming energy at home. So it depends on how energy efficient your home is. If everybody is at home when they would be out, they probably in the winter have their central heating on all day, for example. So it doesn't necessarily work out any better.
Okay, but I mean, what about this whole? We talked earlier on about culture. What about this kind of office culture that people have, or the sense of going somewhere? Is that all going to just change? Hang on, yeah.
I think a lot.
Hang on, Stephen.
a lot of people like going into work, and I think there should be an element of choice there, and I think a balance in the week where you need to be in the office or whatever it is your workplace in, for some of the week. So I'm against any sort of universal statement. I think whenever you make a universal statement, there's always exceptions. It doesn't suit everybody. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Stacia.
I think there has been some evidence that women are finding it more difficult to shift to working at home all of the time, especially if there are children in the home.
Right.
I think in general, women have a harder time compartmentalizing and simply, if there's a sink full of dirty dishes, for example, concentrating on your conference call, or if there's a child crying in the other room, just, shutting the door. That's a generalization, but it does seem like there have been actual studies done in this short time, and I can relate to that. I think that, I've worked from home prior to this, and I prefer it, but I also live alone, so it's much easier. And the nature of what I do is solitary anyway. At the same time, it's driving me crazy not having enough social opportunity. So it's just too much of being self-contained.
You're flat, yeah.
Stephen, I can't see you anymore. Not for any reason other than this computer.
Oh, my video's on.
No, it's not your fault. It's me.
Sorry, okay.
Oh, there you are. Okay, we can see you on this one. Fantastic. Anyway, where are we going to go with this conversation? We're talking about working at home. I've only ever seen you, Stephen, in this particular room.
That's my back. This is the background I've chosen.
Right, okay.
That's my virtual background, yeah.
Okay.
My actual flat is a huge space. Grand.
Why are you choosing to make it? Anyway.
It looks... I'm a modest sort of person, and it looks, authentic, yeah.
Can I just...
Yeah.
The working from home.
Yeah.
In that the working from home culture, unfortunately, is partly what's killing the high street, killing the pubs, killing the bars, etc.
Yeah.
I used to go out for drinks or for dinner or something, once, twice a week with friends, and working from home, I don't have the motivation to go into the city and meet friends anymore, and my evening social life has just completely disappeared.
So in a way, we're kind of coming back earlier on. I think before you guys arrived, we're talking about the kind of killing culture, but you're talking about it's this socializing culture. Earlier on, we were talking about like theatre and music and stuff like that. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. Is COVID killing culture is what we're sort of talking about here, and in this case, is the high street actually dying along with all the theatres and venues and the rest of it? Yep.
Sorry, we're going to leave that as our lasting remark. We're heading off as well.
How do you feel like optimistic about the future? Is this going to go on for years, as some people were saying earlier before you arrived? We kind of are losing now our COVID expert. What do you think? I mean,
there's going to be a big spike in the winter, isn't there?
Yeah, the phrase "the new normal" is definitely an important phrase. I think if it's not this pandemic, it'll be another one.
Another one.
Mm.
Sure, the malaria is going to come into Europe.
Yes, Sophie,
well,
is it coming?
I don't know about that, but with climate change, it's quite possible. Yes.
It does feel like a dress rehearsal for other things, though. To be honest, I know that sounds a bit grisly, but.
And before this, we had swine flu, we had SARS, we had the MERS in the Middle East. We've had all sorts of different kinds of viral infections. This one happens to have taken, but the way that we live in sort of close quarters, the way that we travel across the world so frequently, it's quite possible that this is
okay. So in a way, the recipe is all wrong, isn't it? Terms of
wrong for what?
Yeah, well,
wrong for viruses, maybe
no,
not.
Right, it's right for viruses. It's
right for viruses.
Yeah, the viruses are happy with it. Okay, so it's more of the same, basically. That's Sophie's final thought. What's your final thought, Matt?
I don't think when you talked about culture earlier. I think that's actually the wrong. I don't think culture will ever. I don't think culture will ever die. Culture's got to adapt.
Right.
It's the economy and businesses that I'm more worried about, because everything feeds into the same thing. with anything like this, it's always kind of very Darwinian. The small drop off and the big ones survive, or the clever ones adapt. And I think it's just we're going through a huge period of adaptation at the moment.
Right. Okay. So in a way, are we at an extinction boundary to go for that Darwinian sort of thing?
No, I just think everyone's just got to kind of like really kind of think about how they change what they're doing. Yeah. And whether or not it's right in a lot of cases. I know that's true of me personally.
What do you mean whether it's right?
Well, I think when something serious comes along in people's lives, it forces their hand and it forces them to have a kind of really kind of grown-up conversation with themselves to figure out whether or not this is whether they're living the right way, whether they want to continue the thing that they're doing. It should be an opportunity. I know that sounds a bit kind of naive, but it should be an opportunity for new things to happen too.
In a way, it's a chance to sort of reflect, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We've got a new face coming up. Come and join us for 2 minutes. We're running out of people, so we need you.
Thanks for having us, Mike and Margot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Matt, Sophie, thanks very much. Let's put the call out maybe to these people. Come and have a seat on the table, or the tables of chat as we have now with social distancing. Is it going to be like the survival of the fittest? Is that going to include the people speak or not? It feels like this conversation's dying out, talking about things dying out. The computer's died. It doesn't seem to want to charge somehow. But anyway, it is plugged in. It's plugged in. Yeah. The power is coming through there because it's running everything. It's running the mixer and the screen. Anyway. Where are we going to go with this conversation? Do we need to have a little natural break? Stephen, have you got anything online? As that you are our online audience.
Oh, I see. Have I got anything for you?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been enjoying the Eat Out to Help Out. I've been doing my duty, eating out to help out.
Okay. Any particular recommendations?
Well, it's great fun, but I have observed a lot of non-compliance with social distancing, should we put it that way. It's been great. It's been great fun, and I've been as guilty as anybody else. It goes straight out of your mind.
Yeah. So as soon as you start stuffing your face, you take your mask off.
I thought I was being quite observant up till then, and another friend invited me to a barbecue to play. This was outside, admittedly, so not quite so. But the DJ cranked the music right up, which meant that to talk to each other, you had to talk right in each other's faces.
Right.
You know, right with no masks, straight shouting in each other's faces, shouting over the buffet of food, straight all over the food, and it didn't even occur to me.
Okay, so you just kind of woke up the next morning, kind of realizing that maybe you flouted the laws. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, just at the right moment, we've got a new face to the table. We've got our online audience here. We've got Paul. We've got Margot. We've got Fabian. We've got Stacia. Tell us your name.
Hello, I'm Colleen.
Colleen, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm Mikey. At the moment, well, we've talked a lot about COVID and isn't it terrible? And are we going to... everyone feels like they're going to survive, but that's a good idea. But there you go. You get your own socially distanced microphone. But is culture going to survive? Is life as we know it going to survive? I think is the big question at the moment on the table. Yep. You going?
I'm very wary of invoking Darwinism, especially in any kind of social policies.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because I think that the way that it's often used is even a misinterpretation of what Charles Darwin himself was writing about. But that's a very bleak way to look at it, and it doesn't take into account the fact that over time we should be able to organize ourselves into social structures that can overcome the weak or the disadvantaged or the vulnerable being prey to anything unfortunate that comes along. So that just isn't really a very, that isn't really a society to be proud of.
So in a way, like you're saying, this Darwinism thing is just an excuse sometimes to
I think it's
not care for those more vulnerable.
Yes, I think it can be an easy way to just shrug and say,
Yeah.
you know, this was inevitable. What can we do? It's just the way of science. Whereas I think actually there's a lot of technological advances that are helping us to overcome this.
Okay, so we shouldn't just accept that. So, I mean, earlier on, I should say, Colleen, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown because you're probably wondering what is going on here. This is Talkaoke Pop-Up Talk Show. Thanks for coming. Basically, it's a free-form talk show where we go from subject to subject. We started off talking about, we had a lady that I think did outdoor events or did festivals. She was having a tough time. And then people were kind of saying that culture as we know it is not really surviving, and the government's not really helping. And could we have Rock Out to help out, just as in the same way as Eat Out to help out? And then we moved on to talking about, are we actually taking this seriously enough? And what is the British take really on COVID and all of this stuff? And it was kind of like, well, in the British way of doing it is common sense. Follow your common sense. No one's going to, tell you off if you're not wearing a mask or if you're doing it slightly wrong. And then we started talking about, well, is socializing going to die? Are we all getting more alienated? And that's where we are. Am I right, Stephen? Is that where we are so far?
Yeah, that common sense thing.
Anyway, anyone else? Someone confirm, Paul? Am I right? Is that a fair summary? Yeah, okay.
I'm with that.
Okay, and that's where we are right now. So that we can move on to any subject, really. It's kind of up to everyone around, and hopefully we'll entice more people, especially if we have a good and interesting and exciting conversation. But, maybe it will just kind of peter out, and it will be not the survival of the fittest, but the death of the weakest. The weakest conversational threads. So, we will see. We will see what happens. We don't know. Margot.
I think it's quite exciting that, I feel like paradoxically, I feel less pressure to get things right. And I think doing things creatively or like talking to my performer friends and that kind of stuff, everybody's like a beginner in a way. So people are doing like videos for the first time. They're trying to make their theatre content into something digital, and it's not polished because obviously you can't just like turn up and just shoot something and it's going to be brilliant. If you as a creator want to give it a specific tone, then you need technology and know-how of how to make that work. But because we are still learning, we're learning loads about how to present ourselves online, how to present our work online, for instance. I think it's quite exciting because everyone's, like I said, I think everyone's a beginner right now, and I think that's really quite exciting, as opposed to I must produce a polished social media content or something like that. I'm not a filmmaker, I never made films. I don't really have a desire to start making short films or feature films or whatever. I make performance, but and actually I haven't started doing it online, but some of my friends are doing it, and it's and they really enjoy that kind of DIY aesthetic. It just takes off the pressure. You can actually focus on being creative and making your connections.
So there's less pressure. The bar is set a lot lower now. Is that what you're kind of saying? So
I hope it is, or I hope this is not like some kind of matrix, like, just testing how creative you're going to be, and it's like, no, wrong, you've been doing it all wrong. Actually, this is the right way of creating content in a post-COVID world or something, and you've just been wasting your time. You should have been doing it better before. I don't know.
Come and have a seat on the table of chat. This is Talkaoke. You're very welcome. It's a free-form talk show. We have got Paul, we have got Margot, we have got Colleen, we have got Stacia, we've got Fabian and Mikey. It's a free-form talk show. Join us for a couple of minutes. You managed to get a free bike repair voucher. 4 in the morning, is that how you do it? Okay. Okay, well, good luck with that.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
Ride out to help out.
I never got my free bike fix thing.
You missed the pilot stage, I think.
I was really upset.
Yeah, I like what Margot was saying about.
Okay, hang on a sec, Colleen. That's this one, which is. Hang on, it's this one. Oh, yeah.
Oh, thanks. I was just going to ask, do you feel like there's more freedom to make mistakes in your creative work than in this kind of period?
Do you know what? I think there is more. I think other artists feel that too. But then I wonder, people who are doing well, so say the BBC, maybe they're doing fairly well because they have been online. Television is not really affected, I don't think, in the same way. Of course it is affected, but maybe, you know, they can broadcast to however many people, and that's fine. And I just wonder whether we will now be set back and be like catching up with, you know, the standard of how things have always been done. Are we just being set back, or are we reinventing a new way of doing television, new way of making performance, new way of bringing communities together, or the old ways, the old normal is going to prevail, and we're just going to be like a bit shit at it for a long time and feel even worse about our work? I don't know if this makes sense what I'm trying to say, but
we're talking about, is there going to be a new normal, or is it just going to be like a
same old,
a poor normal? Have a think about it. Come back. Yes.
Yeah. About what Margot's saying.
Yeah. I mean, where do we think about this?
I'd be interested in like reinventing venues who are dropping from 3,000 seaters to whatever to like 40 seaters. Like, what is your offer now, as opposed to, oh no, must get it back up to 3,000 because otherwise nobody makes any money. There'll be new jobs.
Okay.
Like, don't worry about it.
Well, it comes back to this idea of evolving, doesn't it? Will we evolve, or will we simply die off? Will the kind of parameters change so that the new normal will be a 40-seater theatre spread out?
I think maybe we'll be more tolerant of lower fi in terms of presentation. Can you hear me?
I don't know. What do people think? Will we just kind of adapt? Kind of, you know. I mean, we've kind of tried to adapt. It took us about 4 hours. It doesn't seem that complicated here, but all these microphones and cameras and
charging devices.
The extra windshields. We keep changing the windshields and all the chart. Yeah. Stephen, you got something to say?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Hang on. I turned you down. That's why we can't hear you. Go on.
Yeah, I've been trying to get through in response to Margot. I like the idea of try. You know, you can try. You're freer to try something out. Your response, Mucky. Oh, it can be. It doesn't have to be such high quality. Well, it could be lower fi in terms of like technical presentation. Doesn't mean that the content's any lower quality.
So the presentation could be lower quality, but the content could be higher quality.
Well, it could be higher even. Yeah, and also it's reflected in BBC Radio. Actually, there's a lot more tolerance for slightly, you know, impaired audio connections. They used to, if there was the merest bit of interference on a telephone line, they would say, "I'm sorry, caller, we can't continue with this conversation. It's not quite a good enough line." Yeah. If you listen to radio, but they're tolerating a lot lower fi now because everyone's speaking on Zoom or whatever to the studio.
So that we kind of like, yeah. Come and have a seat, guys. This is Talkaoke Freeform Talk Show. You're invited. We're talking about the new normal. Is it a poor normal? Is it a better normal? Is it a new normal? Is it an old normal?
Resourceful.
A resourceful normal. Paul, I feel like you wanted to chime in there.
A little bit of something to throw in here. So I've got a BC, a DC, and an AC.
A DC and an AC.
So it's BC.
Is that a euphemism?
No, these are acronyms.
Okay, yeah.
So before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID.
Right.
So these are three sort of states, aren't they? And so what happens is these things will sort of stretch out to whatever, but I think ultimately we understand a level of social hygiene again.
Right. Okay. So that's one.
I think that's the big lesson. Ultimately, is where that sits and how we sit with it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, how long that lesson lasts is another thing again.
Well, how long do you think it will last?
Hard to say. I mean, I tend to use the influenza epidemic around the First World War as a sort of
a benchmark.
Benchmark.
Yeah.
So that lasted a while. And it had very similar things going on as we're reproducing history here.
Okay, so how long were people socially distancing that time?
Well, it went until about 1918, until the end of the First World War, really.
Right. When did it
And they
start?
didn't necessarily socially distance either.
Right, so they didn't do the social distancing.
No.
What bits of it did they do?
The
getting sick
masks,
and dying.
the mask,
masks. Okay,
yeah. In San Francisco, apparently, you would be held at gunpoint at some point if
Really?
you weren't wearing a mask. Yeah, you'd be forced.
Right.
And there were stories of people on the trams,
Yeah.
on a tram, literally catching it, or someone dying of it on the tram, and then by the end of the tram journey, another person had caught it,
Right.
and was
okay.
also in a bad way.
Okay, that sounds a bit even more serious.
grim.
Yeah, a bit grim. Yeah.
Bit grim.
Come and have a seat. Rest your bones for a minute. You got carrying probably too many things there. Yes, you. Yes. Yes. Come and have a seat.
Come join.
This is Talkaoke Pop-Up Talk Show. Hello. We've got Paul. We've got Margot. We've got Colleen. We've got Stacia. We've got Fabian. I'm Mikey. Come and take a seat. Everything's socially distanced and sanitised. Yeah, you can have a bit of hand gel if you want to. You can park yourself over there where we've got a free mic. At the moment, we're sort of talking about the new normal. Is it a poor normal? Is it? Margot said, "Oh well, there's no kids around. A shit normal." But is it going to be a DIY normal? Is it going to be like more creative? Are we just going to get used to doing things in a different way? These are some of the questions. Colleen, I feel like you're going to say something. Are you not? No. Just scratching your
No,
head.
I'm like very pessimistic about.
You're pessimistic, yeah? Really? Why?
Yeah, I feel like if things are not kind of like enshrined, if there's no kind of like political change, and things just go back to normal. And
so you think there needs to be political. What kind of political change?
Well, I feel like. I mean, things like the furlough scheme were really revolutionary in a way, because they're kind of, it just allowed, okay, so
you're getting
it's
free
like,
money, you mean?
Yeah, free money. You're kind of being paid to live, and like granted, it's only 80% of your salary, which can make a huge difference. But yeah, I thought it was really great actually, and it's really different to have conversations about universal credit and things like that, which were just not even kind of realistic.
Okay, so could we carry on? Could the political change mean free money for everybody? Did we get your name? I can't remember.
I'm Jack.
Jack. Hello. Jack. I'm Mikey. We've not got that one turned. Hang on. Go on, Stacia. Go on, Stacia.
I'm entirely in favor of a universal basic income. I think it's a very good idea. Yeah. And it has been trialed on a small scale.
Yeah.
And with mixed results. However, I really think it's a wonderful idea. I think it is a great way to kind of level the playing field in terms of opportunity.
Yeah. Sorry to go. So you're basically Stacia, just say that again, just trying to invite people into the conversation. We're talking about, Colleen has said, we're talking about the new normal. What is it going to be? Is it going to be like as Margot said, a shit normal? Is it going to be a DIY normal? Is it good? You did say that.
No, she didn't.
Is it going to be, yeah, you said, is it going to be anyway, I'm not going to get into these details. You get the point. And then Colleen said, well, what about universal basic income? And Stacia, you were saying that it's been tried with mixed results. I'd be quite interested to find out why it was mixed, what was good and what was bad about it. So, yeah, and that's basically, it's a free-form talk show. We talk about anything, really. Are you in favour of a universal basic income? You think everyone should get free money?
It's basically the idea is that every citizen, I believe, over a certain age, like let's say 18, would get either a lump sum to last them for their life or an annual sum. So it'd be something like maybe £5,000 a year that everyone just gets, and you can do whatever you want with this. And it doesn't matter how much money you had to begin with. If you have $1 million, you're still going to get this extra 5,000. If you have nothing, you're going to be able to count on this 5,000 coming in. And you can do as you like. You could save it, you could spend it, you could, if you have an emergency, you have this 5,000 on hand. but it's basically to give everyone a kind of a standard to work with. And I believe the idea behind it is that some people have money that they can rely upon or count upon in life, and other people really don't have that, and that it just keeps being a wider and wider gap between those two groups.
Come and have a seat. Come and get involved in this. This is a Talkaoke pop-up talk show. Come sit over here. So we got you. We've got to be a bit more careful about the social distancing, but it's a good time to get a round of names. We've got Paul, we've got Margaret, we've got Jack, we've got Colleen, we've got Stacey, we've got Fabian. We don't know these two people's names. Tell us your names.
Oh, I'm Antonia.
Antonia and
Mary.
And what are your names? Hang on, let me turn up number 3. Go on. What is it?
Joshua.
And so, what do you think about free money? Should you be able to get free money just for being a person? And should you have to be over 18 to get it? No, okay, so not in favour of the over 18, because that's what we're talking about at the moment. Stacia over here and Colleen are both saying everyone, just for being alive and being a person, they've got to be over 18, but they get free money just for being, basically. That's what we're talking about at the moment.
It's free, but they've probably contributed something during their life.
Okay, so
maybe they're raising a child, maybe they're caring for an elderly person in their family or neighborhood, maybe they have a job that contributes, but everyone is, I mean, to just say, you know, free is a relative term.
Okay,
I'm
so
sure they've paid plenty of sales tax every time they go and buy a packet of gum.
Okay, so it's coming from taxes that they've paid, so it's not exactly free, but it's kind of almost like keeping the money going around. What do you think about this idea on this side? Anything on all new people on over here, either table? Just yeah.
I think that, like, without making this a whole, like, down with capitalism thing,
yeah,
like, the money that is proportionate to, like, the rest of us, that, like, people at, like, the top 1% and stuff see is, like, crazy.
Yeah.
And with those kind of monies, like, when we talk about things like FANG stocks and stuff like that, like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, like, I don't know how, because I would imagine that there is, like, there is plenty of money, like, in places like that to kind of put back into the world.
Right.
But then it's like, how do you do that without kind of having, like, a world police or, like, a world, like, tax service thing, without that becoming, like, you know, a monopoly of, like, control on everyone anyway, right? So it's interesting because I think, like, yes, there is a lot of money to go around. And I think a lot of the time, like, people like myself and stuff, like, are kind of victims now of, like, this circumstance where, like, legit, like, I was working in, like, a gallery, like, before all the coronavirus stuff happened. I lost my job, got made redundant, like, twice.
Right.
And then now, like, to, like, survive, I was, like, literally so lucky to, like, get just, like, a quick job in hospitality after, like, 3 months of waiting on the phone to, like, Universal Credit and stuff like this, right? But I feel, personally, for me, like, people in those kind of jobs are, like, kind of lambs to the slaughter in all of this, and, like, a kind of, like, experiment to see, like, you know, where the viruses and stuff are, like, coming from and who they're affecting, and, you know, it's the people like that are, like, hit with it the most. So yes, I agree that there should be some kind of monetary, like, safety net.
Okay, so it's almost like if you get made redundant, you've got something to fall back on. What do you think on this side? We're talking about this idea that everyone gets a certain amount of money.
For me personally, I think I agree with her. For like 18 years old, should get money and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you've got to be 18, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what if someone wanted to do like business or stuff like that?
Okay, so it's good to help them start a business or something like that? Okay, so you think it's a good idea? Does anyone not think it's a good idea around the table? Jack, you've not said anything yet. Have you got any? What do you think about this whole free money thing? Do you think it's...
I'm a bit hungover, so I apologise for being so quiet. Fundamentally, I agree with it. I think it's as a society, I think it's where we should go. How you actually operationalise the giving out of money, you know, I find that quite difficult to get my head around, and I don't think we know how to do that yet.
Isn't it just like everyone gets, well, the way Stacia put it, everyone gets a check for $5,000?
But, like, would that be, like, across...
Yeah. Yeah, go on. Go on.
Well, but surely then our taxation system has got to change completely.
Okay.
Our taxation system, both here and in my native country, needs to be enforced, I would say, because as you mentioned, all of those companies, Apple, Google, we could go on, Starbucks, they're pulling all sorts of offshore loopholes. If they would simply pay what they actually do legally owe, and if someone would enforce that, namely our legislators, we would have quite a lot more money in the public coffers.
Isn't like the worry then that like when and if countries, right? Because basically what you're saying is like it's by country basis, and if each country kind of pulled their weight and did like close the loopholes and all of that, but those companies, because they're so massive and because they operate globally, they just move. Like if like I don't know, company X was like earning loads and loads of revenue in London, and then the government were like, okay, well you can't do that anymore, then they'd be like, okay, no worries, and they would like move all their operations to like the Isle of Man, and then if the Isle of Man for that, it's just like a whack-a-mole, right?
Well, we've actually got a contributor from Guernsey online. Hang on a second, Fabian, grab the microphone.
Right. I was going to say
we've got to cater for our online audience that won't be able to hear you. Go on.
I was going to say on top of that, like they do bring.
Sorry, that's me.
No,
yeah, go
testing. They do bring their own jobs, like if they have like factories, stuff like that out here, shops. They do bring their own jobs. So if we were to like close all the loopholes, then it would go somewhere where taxes are cheaper.
Yeah.
So
would companies just go to a place of lower taxation?
I think it's largely a bluff, especially the American companies. I would love to see Apple headquarters be resorting to having to go to Nairobi or Moscow. Or I would just love to see it. I mean, they can certainly outsource their labor, which they do, and use practically slave labor.
Yeah.
However, I don't actually think they're going to flee every Western industrialized nation.
Okay.
I really don't. The quality of life would be too low. The security that they enjoy because of the military that we all contribute to make sure that we basically have rule of law and a stable society is something that they benefit from hugely.
Okay.
They love to make the argument that they're going to go somewhere, but I think it's largely a bluff.
So there's just like one of those things where they're saying, like if you don't do this, we're going to leave, but it's just a bluff. They're not really going to leave the country. What do you think about this on this side? Do you think if you tax companies too much, are they going to leave, or are they just saying that because they don't want to pay the tax?
I think they don't want to pay the tax.
Yeah.
So I don't think they will leave.
Yeah, you don't think they will leave either.
No.
So it seems like, in a way, we're in one of these strange situations where everyone around the table agrees with this conversation. We've got, I don't know if Stephen's maybe gone to the bathroom or something, our online participant.
That's right.
But we're talking about, would companies move to Guernsey or other offshore places if they were taxed too much? What do you think of this universal basic income idea? How's it going to work?
I'm incredibly interested because we have a Guernseyan here. Is that what you're called?
I don't know. What do you call someone from Guernsey?
Oh, we have two, the offshore
You're from the
people.
Isle of Man, okay. So
is Isle of Man also a tax haven?
She's hiding her millions on the table.
Okay, I'm just curious. I'm really curious to know if that is sort of out in the open in those places. Is it like acknowledged that you're that is providing a service to people, or I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's not a secret at all. Lots of people kind of move to the island for tax reasons. It's not something that I think is going to carry on forever. I'm by no means an expert on it, but it's something that is changing with the times and changing with the global economy as well.
I mean, do a lot of people, does that bring money into the island, to the actual ordinary people of the island?
Yeah,
somehow?
It does, of course it does, because we have our two largest industries are fishing and finance.
Right, okay. Nothing fishy about that.
Yeah. And then we have a whole load of, the kind of like online gaming, e-gaming, like poker websites, all of that. Their headquarters are from the Isle of Man. And they're not there for the fishing.
They've just got like a server there, I suppose, haven't they? And then everything else is offshore. We're talking do you want some free money? Yeah. So what we're talking about is, should any citizen of the country or even of the world just get a certain amount of free money just because they're a person? And because we've got a lot of people around the table, they're either artists or working in fields where you might lose your job. Should those people have some just money just in case? That's what we're talking about at the moment. We've got Margot, we've got Jack, we've got Colleen, we've got Stacia, we have got Fabian, we've got Antonia. Mary, and I've forgotten, sorry, what's your names? Chiara and Joshua and Mikey. Come and take a seat. Come and get involved in this. Yes, as well. Come and have a seat. This is, we're talking about, I guess in a way there's no such thing as free money, but what this lot want to do is get Google and Apple to pay for it.
Starbucks.
And Starbucks and the rest of it. That's what the people around this table want to see. Could it work? And what's stopping it from happening? I suppose if everyone, at least, if this is a kind of like, you know, a representative of the country, everyone wants to see this free money idea happening. Apparently, it could come from the big companies. Anyway, let's get your names. So we've got Margot, Jack, Colleen, Stacia, Fabian, Antonia, Marie, Joshua, and Tiara. And what's your name? Ali and Mikey. And so, yeah, that's what we're talking about at the moment. Do you think this is an idea that could work realistically, Ali? Yeah, but I mean, is that
we did
right?
just have a furlough.
What's that? What is the point of it? Okay, so you're a little bit unconvinced about what's the point of it. Stacia, you were going to come in there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that to say that it's coming from big companies is not quite accurate. It's just coming from the tax base, the same place that the emergency funds have come from. It's just saying, let's not wait for a big emergency to free up these funds. Let's instead give everyone an annual sum. They can save it, they can spend it, they can start a business. But, you know, most people that are starting businesses now are receiving some investment. And it's much easier for some people to get that investment, either from their family or they're well networked, they went to the right schools, etc. And it's just to make it more even for everyone. That's the idea behind it.
In a way, what you're saying is you're investing in people.
Yes.
Investing in everyone, in the free money? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what would you spend your free money on, Ali? What would you spend? Yeah, okay, so good news for the kids in a way. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, Joshua, have you got something to say? I'm going to say it wrong one, go, yeah?
I'll spend the money on a PS5 and a FIFA 20. One.
Okay, so you'd spend it on what's a PlayStation?
5.
PlayStation 5 and FIFA 20, which is, what is that? What's FIFA 20?
Oh, it's a football game.
Okay, a football game. Would that help the world? Would it help the planet?
No.
I really wanted to jump in and say, like, when is it Stacia? Stacia, cool. Like when Stacia was saying, like, you know, it's to help people, it's to like put money back into the economy, it's to make everything fairer and set up businesses.
Yeah.
I think I think that a lot of people would at 18 or even younger, if you know this happened, would go, oh, wicked, I've got my $5,000 that's come in, I'm gonna get this and this, not really think that far ahead. And I would say, like, even like, you know, adult people like would often probably do that, you know what I mean? And also specifically people that like may already have money or like, you know, they come from like wealthier backgrounds and stuff, they'll probably go, well, I'll just use that as like a holiday treat, you know what I mean? So like, I think if we were gonna try and, you know, amend some of these tax issues and help the people, as it were, is we would go back and start funding things like youth centres and arts programmes and putting the arts back into like the national curriculum and things like that, because those things under the Tories have just been taken away, you know what I mean, because of like austerity, because of changes to the syllabus. And I think those places and those subjects, they like foster a sense of, you know, like ingenuity and creativity in young people, and I think that's really where the money should be going back into, is making that the basis.
Let's ask the young people, would you rather that your dad got $5,000 or money got spent on things like youth clubs and activities for young people, for all young people? How would you prefer it to be? Joe, have you got a point there? What do you think?
$5,000, because what if you want to save it for college or university, stuff like that?
So you think it's better to give it to the person than just to give it to young people at large and build up youth clubs and stuff like that? What do you think, Joshua?
I agree with Tiara.
Okay, so there's a certain traction in the idea that young people kind of know how to spend their own money. And what about on this side? Should it go to youth clubs and good thing? Yeah.
join one or two, but he normally goes.
Yeah. I mean, if more money was spent on that, would that be better than just giving it straight to you?
Yeah, I think it's quite a good idea. So
Yeah.
they can engage with the youth club, so they can go and play, spend their time.
Yeah.
Either not go outside for the long time, but if you're connected with the youth club, it's getting a good time.
And what youth club do they go to?
I don't know. I forgot the name on it. I got
Yeah,
my
but a local
message.
one to here.
The local one, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Wapping Youth Club.
Okay, yeah, Wapping, yeah.
It's one of the Doro Street. That's local. That's the local one. The Doro Street down the road.
Okay.
I don't know what they call it. It's a spotlight. I don't know. I never got there.
Anyway, so but let's just spread this out and talk about the main principle. Could the money just go to like projects rather than people?
Yeah, you've got £1 million there. They're gonna give you money.
Spend £5,000 on.
Yeah, $5,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got 5 grand. What
Okay,
you gonna do?
let's come over here.
Like, expensive bike.
Okay, yeah, go on, Joshua.
And I also give some to charity.
So you would give some to charity. So you think actually the money should be given to individuals rather than big projects. Do you agree with that as well, Tiara?
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
like buying a house, saving it, or like save it to pay your bills or rent. Like,
Okay, so you could pay your bills off as well. Stephen, you saying something there online?
I think you've hit something there. If the idea, one of the main ideas of a basic income scheme like this is to give people that basic security from which they can move into sort of set up their own business or whatever it is, at the moment accommodation is the biggie, really. I think maybe it's more important to ensure that everybody has a safe place to live.
Yeah.
That is their basic need. Everything moves up from there. It's only when I was living in a council place, because I was being moved on, evicted from private tenancy to private tenancy,
Yeah.
I could actually think about getting some sort of career together.
Okay, so you've got to think about where people are going to live, and maybe the money should go onto that. It should be a place to live, and maybe if you've got your rent covered, then the rest happens. Ali?
But I need to go.
Okay, give us a final thought.
If I got money, I should open my own business.
Yeah.
Or help with the job.
But do you think giving people money, would it be good for business at large? Would it be good for the economy?
Yeah, if it's like opening more business, it's more good. People get a job.
Yeah.
Lots of people lost a job anyway. So if they're opening their new business, or all businesses well,
Yeah.
at least have a job. Everybody wants some job to do, isn't it?
Okay, so that it might actually lead to like a real growth in jobs if we gave everybody money, and that would kickstart the economy. We're talking about free money here. There's no money here to be given, sadly, but there is the idea, and you have to start with an idea. If you want free money, you've got to start somewhere. In this case, with the idea. Okay, so potentially it would kickstart and fire up business. And would that be better than spending money on big projects like building youth clubs? We have got a new person coming in online. So in a minute, we're gonna welcome Mandy. It's very exciting. We've got an online audience as well, by the way, here. Hello, Mandy. Can you hear us? Unmute yourself for now.
Hi, Mikey. Hello, mate. Hiya.
How you doing? So, so welcome to Talkaoke. At the moment, we've got a lot of people around the table. We've got Joshua, we've got Tiara, we've got Ali and family who are about to go. We've got Margot, we've got Colleen, we've got Stacia, we've got Fabian, Antonia and Maria. And as you know, I'm Mikey because we know each other. But at the moment, we're talking about free money. Is it a good idea? Could you actually give everybody the sum that we talked about is £5,000 a year, just to do with whatever they want to do with it. If they want to buy a PlayStation, they buy a PlayStation. If they want to spend it on a new business, would that be the thing to kickstart the economy after COVID? That's what we're talking about at the moment. You don't have to come straight back into it. I'm just filling you in on where we are with the conversation.
All right, yeah.
So that's where we are for now. Thank you, Ali. Any final thoughts? Anyone else of Ali's family? Do you like the free money idea? Yes. Okay. All right. So where do we go from here? Margaret, have you got a point?
Yeah, I wonder whether there's something that's kind of needed, you know, what if there was some money or some kind of, you know, initiative in Poplar, is there anything in Poplar that's needed for people who specifically live here? Because I think, you know, there's we spoke to a lot of people in this area who've got really good ideas about what can be happening in the area, what there's lacking and that kind of stuff. And I wonder whether people had any views, if there was some kind of support to get something off the ground here locally, whether
what would it be?
What would that be? Yeah, exactly.
What would it be? Or should it just be giving people individuals
a
money?
money dispenser.
Yeah. Hang on. Let me. Yeah, go.
I've lived here for like 5 years now, like just literally around the corner from Canary Wharf. So it's a really interesting and strange place to live, because you have like when I go to bed at night, like I can see like the whole of like, you know, Citibank, JP Morgan, KPMG, all of that like overbearingly lighting up the sky, and I'm like in my sort of like
there, basically,
you know, my very like ramshackle, shabby like, you know, flat. Do you know what I mean? So it's odd, and like I think the like disparity in, you know, the normal world in inverted commas like prior to COVID is so like evident, you know what I mean? And I'll like walk 10 minutes down my road and I'll be in Canary Wharf where everyone's in suits and everyone's in, you know, commercial finance and investment banking and blah, blah, blah. Or I'll walk down the street and I'll see people that, you know, are homeless, are really struggling, have nowhere to go, are just like drinking in the park all the time in All Saints Church. And if I continue walking down, like over the A Road and stuff, there are huge like warehouses and old derelict buildings. Like Limehouse Library is, I think, owned by the like Heritage Fund, the lottery, but that just sits empty, you know. And there are all these premises dotted around the place, like on Commercial Road, that are just empty. And I know people that own those like buildings and stuff, like keep them to basically wait until they fall down to not repair them, because it costs more to repair them. But like, I think there should be like incentives for these people that own those kind of places to open them up to the public, because if they're just sitting there going to waste, right, you could be giving them like affordable housing, artist studios, dance studios, like public gyms, things like that, like project-led spaces that really help bring people together, you know.
Okay, so there's a couple of points there, Antonio. One is about this disparity of wealth between the very rich, just within view, really behind you there, and the people that don't have so much money. And is that the right way to be living? But then also all these empty buildings as well. And what could we somehow do, be more imaginative with how those buildings are used, and artist studios or accommodation? What do you think? Do you live in the area? Do you think are we getting it right? Do you think we could do more stuff with all the empty buildings? And what should we do with empty buildings? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think so, because like, so you know how everybody's like, all builders like doing lots of buildings, like we need like parks to sit down, relax, stuff like that, instead of destroying the environment.
Come and have a seat on the table of chat. At the moment we were talking about free money, and everyone seems to think it's a good idea, unsurprisingly in a way. But what we're talking about is a universal basic income, where everyone gets, let's say, $5,000 a year to do with what they want. And then we moved on to, okay, if you were going to spend money in this area, what would you spend that money on? Would it be doing stuff with all the empty buildings? Would it be more parks? That's what we're talking about at the moment. We've got Paul, we've got Tiara, we've got Joshua, we've got Marie, we've got Antonia, Stacia, Colleen, Margot. Tell us your name. Siraj, welcome. I'm Mikey. Welcome. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Anything from the online audience? What do you think about any of this stuff?
Well, I think that these empty buildings, for a start, I mean, I've got friends that run cafes that have had to go out of business. So it would be good if people could do pop-up cafes, that kind of thing. They'd have to be socially distanced and all that. You know, I mean, because the trouble is people have had to pay rent on their business premises, and because they've been forced to close because of the lockdown, they go out of business. So it would be good to do something with empty buildings to allow.
What would you like to see done? Just more cafes, or just?
I think some nice meeting places for people that could be done in a socially distanced kind of way would be very good. You know, because nobody wants to be in the house all the time. So yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be good.
Good stuff.
Meeting places, safe meeting places.
It's starting to get busy again. So that little lull we had about an hour ago, it seems that we seem to have now been like winding this up, because we're also welcoming Ellum. Say hello, Ellum. Are you there? You're muted.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. We're talking about, this is a bit of a Poplar specific, I don't know where you're based, but this is more of a Poplar specific conversation. We're talking about what could be done with all the empty buildings. Then there's another thing about, it all started actually with this question about, should we be giving people free money just for being them, you know? Just invest in people is the way we put it. And then it became about, well, should we actually be spending money in this area? And there's a huge difference, wealth gap between, I don't know if you can see, maybe Rick, if you want to flick to the other camera, you can see behind here we've got very big, glamorous buildings.
Yeah.
You know, we've also got a lot of poverty. So some ideas about using empty buildings and stuff like that. None of the cameras really are pointing at the skyscrapers, but you get the idea. Margot's doing it. There we go. Lovely picture of Canary Wharf. So that's where we are right now. Siraj, have you got any views on this, or do you just want to listen to the conversation a bit more?
I mean, yeah, like.
Oh, hang on a sec, Ellen, hang on. I'll come to you in a second, Ellen. I just want to come to. We've got Siraj over here. So yeah.
Empty buildings at this time would be for the homeless.
Yeah.
Because many people are being evicted. The government is doing its bit, but within 4 weeks, the eviction notice is going to taken off. So at that point, many people will become homeless.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the best use for those buildings.
Okay, so you would like to see more buildings used for homeless people.
Yeah.
Ellen, let me bring you in. Go on.
Yeah, I think that empty buildings should be used for community ideas and initiatives. Yeah, so I always find that gallery exhibitions are quite a good use of the space, or things where, or just something where the community can kind of use it. Maybe it could be some physical exercise classes or something like that, you know, socially distanced and everything.
Okay, so a bit active places as well.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. You're going to jump in there? Yeah, go on.
So, my kind of thoughts around this are you do basically need to really incentivize the private sector when it comes to these things. These are all obviously owned. They're not owned by maybe one or two in this area are not owned by, you know, the government or heritage funds or whatever. They are owned by private landowners that are waiting literally for the buildings to fall down because the land is more commercially viable and will bring them a larger profit than if they rebuilt and regenerated it themselves. So I think number one, that should be in a place like London where you have such a huge housing crisis, right? And we're promised all the time that we'll get affordable housing, it'll be fine, food for the people, it doesn't happen. There should be law and legislation that says if you have a huge property of X amount of, you know, acres or whatever, if you don't do something with it in I don't know, 5 or 10 years, then we will put it back into,
right,
you know,
okay,
the
so
hands
use
of
it or
people.
lose it kind of thing.
Because it's just that is, you know, I think what's wrong with places like London and places that are in zone 2, which are really accessible for people, but they're just empty, right? It's I think it's wrong. And I think that ideas around guardianship and stuff where people kind of have people come and live in to look after the property and all of that stuff, I think a lot of the time they're also disguised as just free, cheap bodyguards for the premises, right?
Yeah.
And maybe there should be a change with them where you're a guardian, you can do the guardianship and you can get the free rent and cheap rent and be the bodyguard for the property, but you have to rejuvenate it yourself and make it worthwhile for the community and worthwhile for the people.
Okay, so you get a free building, but you have to do something with that building. We're talking about Ella, how you doing? You all right? We're talking about really investing in Poplar and what that would mean. Antonia's mentioned there's a lot of empty buildings out there that are not being used. Could we be using them in a more creative way? Should they be used for homeless people? Could they be used for creative purposes? Are we investing enough in Poplar as a whole? And, you know, is it just about the buildings? There's another question. So come and take a seat. We've got a new face over here. What's your name? Jefferson. We've got Colleen. We've got Stacia. We've got Antonia. We've got Marie. We've got Joshua. We've got Tiara. We've got Paul and Siraj and Margot and Mikey. Come and have a seat as well. You can bring Pepe too. that's what we're talking. We're sort of talking about. Are we investing enough really in Poplar? And does that mean using the buildings? Does that mean other stuff? What do people think? Yeah. Any ideas? This side of the table's been quite quiet. Yeah. You observant? Anything on this? Yep.
To people a couple of weeks ago, and there was some people were talking about doing something for dogs because there's a lot of dogs in the area, and I wonder whether that kind of is something that people wanted to do. But I really, but like you say, there are already some empty buildings, and there will be more as. Amy was sitting here where you're sitting, Jara, earlier, and she was saying how venues will be closing down. But I wonder whether the venues which do stay open, can they be doing something differently to kind of justify their existence in the community to be more useful, or can or those small venues that kind of go bankrupt, can they just become something else more useful, or maybe not? Maybe just give the venues to the people to set up the businesses, spend the $5,000 if we finally get the universal basic income and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so is a question out there. All these venues are all going bust. Would they be better off as homeless shelters? Could they be used in a different artistic way? We've got another new face to the table. So we have got Antonio, we've got Marie, we've got Joshua, we've got Tiara, we've got Paul, Siraj. We didn't get your name over here. Pepe. And Jefferson and Colleen and Stacia. And tell us your name. Bryony. Whoa. You can share this microphone over here.
Can I just interject?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Sorry.
So, yeah.
Like some of the buildings and the companies and the businesses that are, independently run that I see making like literally the largest effects, like in the community where I live, literally on like the Commercial Road, Paisley Street, all of that like area, Limehouse.
Yeah.
They are all literally like independent like chicken shops and corner shops, right?
Right.
And legit, like it sounds, I think, like maybe strange for like a lot of people, but like if I go in there, like I know the owner, he'll like talk to me and we'll have a really nice chat like for ages. They always make a massive effort, like, and people really respond to that, and people respond to spaces that are welcoming to them and open to them. And I think if there was like a way that we could transfer those kind of models which do work for people and are accessible and like easy, then we could make some real changes. And I think.
So what are you saying, Antonio? That we should expand the chicken shop?
No, I'm saying that like they like are not. It sounds like they are a chicken shop, yes, but they're like more than that, right?
Yeah.
And everyone that walks in there is like super friendly to everyone, and they're all friends. Like all the customers are friends. Like I'll talk to customers that I've like never met in my life before, and the like owners will always do that, and they make like a huge effort. And it sounds like it's a nothing thing.
So those people are kind of community connected.
Yeah, legit, and they really, really are, right? And so it's not like I think like it would work really well if we could like transpose those accessible models, right? Models that aren't like threatening, like a chicken shop sort of vibe, into something that is like more community driven and more community led, like an artist project, but something that is accessible and not threatening is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, what do you think on this side, the community connector idea? Do you think the connector, do you feel connected to the chicken shop? Do you feel when you go to, you do? Yeah, hang on.
The one down the road, like every time I go to the shop, they say, "You're right, Amanda." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine," stuff like that. Like they're really friendly as well once you get to know them.
Okay, so they are connectors in the community. Yeah. Okay.
I think it is very important in sort of gentrification or urban renewal schemes to hold space for independent businesses, just for the reasons that both of you are pointing out. When I think of like the rejuvenation of King's Cross St. Pancras, it's now a beautiful place, but every shop in there is like a chain, sort of semi-upscale, and it's just not a great environment. And it's very unfortunate, especially with the wonderful art school being right there, but that there wasn't space reserved for people that were doing independent things on a smaller scale that would be more of a, more of a personal touch and just more of a different kind of investment.
where
Yeah.
it's kind of gone wrong, because King's Cross in like the 70s, 80s, even arguably like very early 90s
Yeah.
was like a queer mecca, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there was loads of like sex workers, there were loads of queer people, there were loads of like underground bars and places like that. An artist that I really love called Ellie Clark, she actually did like an exhibition about it fairly recently, I think maybe 2 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And like it, I think gobsmacked a lot of people. People were like, "Oh my god, what the hell?" Like I thought it was just all anthropology and like, you know, Carhartt and the King's
Is
Walk or
anthropology
whatever.
a shop?
Yeah, it's like a really,
Okay,
really
right, right.
expensive.
Yeah, I thought you meant like the
No,
Department
no,
of
no.
UCL.
No,
Yeah.
no. That would be better if it was there.
Yeah.
But like that has just gone wrong. And like I think, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but myself as like a 24-year-old queer
Yeah.
woman, like I don't want to go out in King's Cross because I'm like, I can't afford it, number one. I also don't like how it's kind of taken away all of the old
So it's kind of been
history and things like that.
sanitised, is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
precisely.
Yeah.
And like I used to even work like round the corner from Granary Square, do you know what I mean, in a very swish place. I'm not going to name any names. But it was, the clientele were just so not really what that kind of space was about, and it's very posy.
Yeah.
And I think that is, you know, what you're
I
kind
mean,
of
it goes back to
hinting at.
this thing about investing in people, doesn't it? I'm just going to come to you in a second, Marie, because Ellem's had her hand raised for a little while, and I'm trying to bring in the online audience. Ellem, are you...
She's gone somewhere. I don't know where she's
Oh, yeah,
gone.
she's gone. She's gone. But
There you
she's
go,
back.
yeah.
She's back. Ellem, what's your point?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's such a shame that, you know, when gentrification happens, it really just, it takes away the thing that actually the things that actually attracted people to the area. It kind of takes away the interesting things that draws people to the area. I just have an idea of something that could be used on how one of the empty buildings could be used.
Yeah.
I think that maybe we could have like a lending shop, you know, a shop where you can like lend tools and things like that. Because I was just thinking yesterday that I actually need a particular tool, but I
What
don't
do you
really
need?
purchase it. It's I forgot what it's called. It's like some kind of saw machine.
Yeah.
And it cuts wood. I don't remember what it's called, but I was thinking it would be so nice to have like a library where you could just borrow things, return it.
Okay, so you need a particular... I don't know if anyone here has got a, whatever that is, a circular saw, is it?
Circular saw, yeah, that's what it is.
We definitely don't have one. And I'd be worried as well if I did lend it to you that you might chop your fingers off. But I get the point. You could have a tool library. You had a point, Marie?
Yeah, I guess I have two now.
Yeah.
Because I really like that idea of a tool library, that kind of thing. And another great idea, like a kind of skills swapping thing. I don't know. Maybe
Do you think they could do that here in the Poplar Union?
Maybe.
Would that work?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, just going off that I was in Lewisham the other week and they had like a toy library, which
Right.
I'd never seen before. And I thought that was a really fantastic idea because toys are really expensive and your kid will quite often be done with it after 2 times playing with a toy. So just, the idea of having that space that families can share these resources, I thought was really lovely and kind of community minded. And a point that I wanted to make going off the kind of talking about the King's Cross area is I work quite close to King's Cross, but in a very community-minded space. I work at a learning disabled adventure playground.
Right.
So we have this incredible space. It's largely green space and it's just an absolute haven for the kids that we get to come and do outdoor adventure play, give their families a break, that they wouldn't otherwise have, and the kids to have a chance to run around in this urban environment that they live in. And I think all of these kinds of initiatives that we're making space for children to play or even for adults to play as well, if there's art centres or community projects or theatre projects, is what we should really
So
be
more
focusing on.
play space in a way, I think. Was there something over at Jefferson? Was there something over here? I know. Okay, what do you think about all this chat? Give us a final thought before you go.
I think I got in the middle of all of this, but I think
it's everyone.
It's been nearly 2 years ago that I moved around Poplar. I always lived in Isle of Dogs, and I think that there's so much potential around here. And I think that if every single building and Poplar Union would be more investing in education, because that's the main thing.
What kind of education?
Well, like we gave a lot of examples here, like skill swapping, and I know that there's like karate classes here and so many other classes, but I don't know, like more any type of education, cooking lessons for youngsters, or anything that can motivate them to be out of this plenty of bad things that happens around here, the streets, drug dealing and all. So keep people busy so they can get out of the streets and do something meaningful for their lives.
Okay, meaningful.
Well, hello.
Mandy, yes.
Hi.
Yeah, we've got Mandy. Thank you, Jefferson. Thank you.
Well, firstly, right, I kind of, going a bit back to what you said about the money and things. I think that, with the lockdown, the government had been sort of, some people could apply, businesses could apply to get rent holidays, but that doesn't always happen. A lot of the businesses around my way had to pay rent and they couldn't operate, and so they closed down. I think that there could be some investment in allowing existing community things to continue by not having to pay sort of like the business rates and stuff like that,
Right, that would be an easy one to do in a way. Just say no more business rates, and it's something that the government could do, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. So that meeting, because people need safe meeting places, kids need places to play, and it'd be good to have independent designers and artists and musicians having those spaces to operate as well.
It seems like we've all got this idea, this kind of vision of this kind of all these independent artists working feverishly, almost in the hive-like in this, this harmonious kind of, cafe culture sort of thing. And that's where everybody around the table wants to go with this, I think. Go on. Yep. Margot?
I was wondering on the subject of having like a indoors playground, what you were saying, Mary. I wonder whether we could set something like that for the grown-ups. Yeah, you can, for instance, you can play, you come in and you can either, I don't know, do painting, or you can do filmmaking or whatever, just whatever you pick up that day. But also maybe you can try out different, you can learn about, I don't know, how to set up a business, or, just like chat to somebody, just kind of like drop in shops. One of the things, that is one of the things that came up slightly in when we were chatting to people 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But, just kind of have that playful approach, because that once you're a grown up, there's so many responsibilities that you have to think about, like, business rates if you want to start a business. How am I going to feed my family? Oh, damn, there's a global pandemic. No one expected that. What do I do? And, all sorts of things. There's not enough time to actually, have the financial freedom, which would come maybe from the universal basic income. There's not enough freedom to go and pick something up and try, like a child would, just play with this toy for 2 days.
Maybe this more playful approach would also help us to be more creative and start these new businesses that everyone seems
I think
to,
so. Maybe people like stop stressing.
Yeah.
Maybe even get those developers in to have a little play around with something, so they maybe wouldn't want to extort money. From,
okay, so maybe we could get the rich people in to play with us as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, there's some people here that have not said much at all. People like Bryony and Siraj, you've not said anything yet. What do you think of these things? I mean, you don't have to say anything. It's your right just to sit here and listen. And Pepe's owner's not said anything yet either.
No, well, I think that there should be more
hang on.
Stuff for the younger generation, like youth clubs.
Yeah, but what about a youth club for adults? Could you have such a thing?
Well, you could have a mixture of both, really, couldn't you? So that you got the adults with the children, like, the parents and stuff. But there's not enough around here for the kids, like, in the play, like the park area itself around here, all there is mainly is like football for the boys and stuff. The playground here, or the play area and that, it's all being taken over by football. Like, there's nothing here for the girls and stuff like that, and I think that there should be more for them.
Yeah.
There was for me and my kids when we were younger.
What kind of things?
We used to have like play centres and that we could go to, the 6 weeks holiday and everything like that. But there's nowhere for them to go.
Okay, so there used to be more stuff. So in a way, do you feel like we're going backwards on that one?
Definitely.
Okay, let me come to Colleen. Yep, it's this one, yeah.
I was just thinking, another problem I think is that there aren't enough places where people can go and not have to buy anything, and just go and like be in a place where you don't have to buy anything, because I think we have libraries, we have like some free museums, we have like community centres, but it seems like they're more and more being like closed down.
Yeah.
And I feel like over the pandemic, we've been really lucky that actually it's been summer, so we can go out in the park and sit in the park if you don't want to be in your house. But if this had happened over winter time, it would have been a really different situation, and yeah, like 10 times more horrible, I think, because there just aren't any, like people just wouldn't have been able to go anywhere.
So at the moment it's like house or park, but in the winter it might just be house or bus shelter maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because here in Poplar Union, it is a place you can just go and sit. But I think because there's a cafe there, people feel like they have to buy a coffee, but they don't. I don't know. Anyway, where do we want to go with this conversation? Grab that mic. Go on.
It goes back a few steps to some things people were saying before, but for years in London, I was part of this thing called The Hub, which was a shared office space for social entrepreneurs. And I think there's so much of a gig economy now, and so many of us self-employed, and it's easy to be just at home with your laptop and you need more people contact. And then we would have cool things like learning lunches, where it's like, oh, I need to do some fundraising. Who knows things about fundraising? And we'd all just bundle on a fundraising learning lunch and learn together. Or, oh, I'm dealing with an investor. How do you deal with an investor? Just help each other. Because we were all kind of working on environmental or social projects. And now I'm a musician and I live in Wales, so I don't feel very qualified to talk about Poplar. But what's been super hard in the pandemic is all the practice spaces have closed, and I don't have a practice space at home. So like space to sing really loud, space to play piano, space to move, space to gather people together. Space for like creative, expressive arts, singing, dancing.
Just while we're on the kind of Wales thing, you've come from Wales.
Yeah.
Is it different? Because we were talking a bit earlier on about how it's different in Spain. Everyone's wearing masks and like telling each other off for not wearing masks and just like sanitizing their hands every minute. Is it like that in Wales, or is it more like this? Is it like here?
It's much more rural in Wales, and we had a 5-mile travel ban until July 4th. So it was like everybody just stayed at home, and it's quite sort of conservative and rural and spacious. So everybody just
stayed in their home.
Just stays very separate. Or you go in the hills and you just. But then I can see Snowdonia from where I live, but I couldn't get there because if you travel more than 5 miles, the police would stop you and tell you to go home.
Right. Okay. So in a way, it's a bit more like
unless
Spain.
you're Dominic Cummings. Unless you're Dominic Cummings,
you're
then you
Dominic
can go to,
We've got a raised hand again from Ellum. So Ellum, do you want to chime in at this point?
Yeah. I just wanted to find out the Hub. I live around the corner in Haggerston from a place called the Hub, and I was just wondering if the Hub. That the previous speaker.
Bryony, yeah. Is that the same hub?
Was it
in Haggerston? Where was this hub?
This one was in Angel Islington, but it was the first one, and there've been loads more. They're all around the world now. They've really proliferated.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
so it might be. I don't know.
Would you be tempted to go to a hub, Ellum?
Yeah, I would actually. And from the conversation that's been happening, it just reminded me of this organization called ECHO, and it's all about skill swapping. If your talent is, you're a Spanish speaker or teacher, you teach Spanish, you can swap your skill with somebody that might need something translated. And it would be good to see more places like that where you can just swap skills.
Okay. Maybe we can go around the table. What skills would you swap? Would you want to acquire any skills? And what have you got to swap? That goes to this table over here. Hang on. Yeah,
probably like a band, like for adults to listen to music like in night times. Because we're from Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
And we go out, have parties, stuff like that. Or like sometimes listen to music like you really love.
Yeah. So like musical, you're talking about musical skills then?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you want to get or what you want to give?
I think that's what we should get, like for everybody.
Okay, so like music, a bit more music in the air. Okay, Joshua, what do you think? What skills would you give or get? What skills do you need apart from being better at FIFA 20? You're already good at FIFA 20.
Okay, but
yeah.
I'll get football skills.
Football skills. And what do you want to give? What skills could you give?
I will give probably some some people who don't speak English. Yeah.
Okay, so you could teach people how to speak English. Okay, good one. Let's go around the table. And Paul, what skills have you got? Have you got skills to get or give?
Oh, I'm torn. I've got skills. I can
What
do
skills
stuff.
have you got?
Yeah, it's hard to pin down, really.
Yeah.
I can talk if I really need to talk.
So you're good at talking?
Yeah, I can do that.
And what are you not good at? That you could
Most things
Yeah?
I'm not good at.
Okay, so it could be
I'm
anything.
pretty useless generally.
Would you be interested in football skills or music skills?
No.
Okay.
I can do duck calls. I tried to learn to beatbox and all I could do was duck calls.
Okay, so you can do duck calls, maybe helpful for the ornithologists. Okay.
What, a demonstration of a duck call?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, then, all right.
Yeah. Very useful
and so
skill. Anyone want to know how to do that? Maybe speak to Paul afterwards. Okay, let's go. Let's go to Siraj. What have you got skills to give or to get? What skills would you?
I would probably teach math skills to people.
Yeah.
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 And I would probably learn programming.
Okay, so you want to learn
Yeah.
programming but
Yeah.
teach people maths.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a way? Because most people, I don't know, most people are a bit resistant to learning maths. What's the trick?
Yeah, it's mostly about the teacher. If the
Yeah.
teacher is passionate about the subject, then it translates into them being
Okay.
excited about the subject matter, and then the students just pick up on that.
Okay, so you've got to be passionate. You've got to transmit the passion. Okay, let's go around. Margot, have you got skills to get or to give?
Yes, maybe, but I really like what you were saying, Joshua, isn't it? About children teaching grown-ups English. Because like everyone's like used to the fact that kids go to school to learn, whatever. But I think, yeah, there's so many people here for whom English is a second language, me included. But
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't use that school. But I think that there may be a potential of like children teaching grown-ups how to speak English,
So kids
or some other language. I don't know.
Okay, so is that a skill that you would give or get, or you?
I could teach Polish to anybody who's willing to. I mean, I think there's some Polish people around this area. I've spoken to a few today.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I'll just teach Polish in a different way.
And what skill would you like to get?
I would like to get I would like to just hang out with somebody who's like really old and really wise and got a lot of experience.
So
I'd offer
age and
shopping.
wisdom kind
Yeah,
of thing.
I would like to hang out with
Okay.
someone
I just want to call out to some people that are vaguely curious about this. This is Talkaoke Pop-Up Talk Show. You're very welcome to come and sit down. And yes, that's you. Yes, you're very welcome to come. Everyone's welcome. Pepe's owner. What skills would you like to get or give?
I'd like to learn how to go online more.
Okay.
Because everything now is online, you know, and I was just starting to learn all of that before all of this happened.
Yeah.
And so I'm slowly
Yeah.
getting there, but I'd like to learn a lot more.
And what skills have you got to give or to teach other people?
Not so much skills, but I'm a full-time carer, and I've also got like elderly neighbours around me. So if I'm making like a cottage pie or stew and that, I just take it round to a few of the neighbours, and if they need any shopping, I'll get them go out and get their shopping every now and again. But it's not a skill, but it's just something I like to do.
But also, I guess also you could provide the old people from Margot to learn the wisdom. Okay, we're going to go around the table on this one. Colleen, what skills have you got? Skills to get or to give?
I'm not sure if this is a skill, but I like more a thing I would do for people is that I would walk their dogs.
Right,
Because
okay.
I like going on long walks. So.
Okay, well that could be very popular around here. We spoke to a lot of people last week about dogs, and there's a big dog culture here. We haven't really broken that one. Yeah, especially French bulldogs for some reason. And what skills would you like to acquire?
Just for fun. I really want to learn how to do dancing, some kind of dancing.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what I'd like to learn.
You could potentially do that here at Poplar Union. Stacia, let me just skills to get or to give?
Well, firstly, I think that being a carer and dog walker, those are both skills, because truly not everyone would be good at that.
Let me just get a final thought from Sandra. Give us a final thought. What do you think? Anything? Have you heard anything that's been interesting?
Oh, everything, yeah, no. Well, hopefully, you know, we get something out of this, you know, because we need a little talk show like this to see what everyone wants. And hopefully get a lot more going on in the park.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be sending this to the highest authorities, which is the people that run Poplar Union. But at the same time, you can also come next Thursday down to Aberfeldy Street if you're willing to cross the A12. Because we got another one 7 o'clock, and find out what the word on the street is on that side. I noticed a couple of raised hands over here, but we're just going around, we're getting skills, so maybe I've got to get around to these people, so let's just be a bit faster with the skills, Stacia.
Right.
Go on.
Skills I would give, writing and editing.
Yeah.
Skills I'm looking to acquire would be flamenco dancing and Latin language.
Okay, so very Latin curious, yeah. Fabian?
Skill to give is how to do an owl call. Wait. Oh, dang it. Oh my god, now that I need it.
Well, the owls don't come out. They don't come out till night time, so maybe it's too early.
There we go. And I'd like to know how to do the tango.
Okay, so everyone wants to know how to dance some kind of Latin dance. I'm going to come back to you in a second. Bryony, what's your skills?
I could teach music and singing.
Yeah.
We could get the music happening.
Yeah.
Definitely raise the voices, and I would like help with QuickBooks and handling.
Well, maybe Siraj could help with that. I don't know if that is math skills. Go to QuickBooks. Antonia.
Skills that I could teach DJing, photography, Photoshop suite, and interesting things like that. Skills that I would like to be able to code, because I feel like that's like a really useful one.
Yeah.
And I would also like to be good at like 3D like design and art, like Blender and stuff like that. But
Blender.
I suppose it's like it's like when people like make games and like animated films and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's hard.
Okay.
I can't do it.
Marie, what would skills you'd like to give or get?
I can do a pigeon call. No, I can't. It's a little joke.
Yeah.
I could teach acting.
Yeah.
I'm a performer, and I would like to receive sign language or like Makaton lessons.
Okay.
They're really expensive.
Okay, so that's a really good one. Okay, let's come to the online audience. Who wants to go first, Mandy? Oh, you're muted there. You got to unmute yourself. Yeah, go on.
Right, yeah. Actually, Alan was waiting before me. Do you want to go?
Yeah, Ellen, do you want to go on?
Can't hear. She's muted.
Before Sandra went, I just wanted to say to her that like making sure pie for her elderly neighbors and buying shopping for them, that is a skill, because you need great communication skills and you need to be a people person. Do you know what I mean? And you also got to know, get the actual right things for people. So she's gone now, but I just, I think sometimes when we think of skills, we might think of these like big things, but actually there's so many different things that can be classified as a skill and a useful thing for the community. I'm sure those old people really love her doing that. Also, I was just thinking, sorry, my point has gone now. Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a second. I'm sure it'll come back to you. I mean, there is an interesting thing about how we value the skills. Go on, Ellen.
As well, like I think Sandra was also saying that she'd like to be more technical, internet savvy, and I think it's so important for older people to know how to use the internet, because it will benefit them so much. Even things like online banking, I was encouraging my mum to get online banking. She's not an elderly person, but she's an older person.
Would you do that for Sandra for the sake of a cottage pie? Would you do it?
You know what? I'm gluten intolerant, but maybe there's something
I don't
else.
think there is wheat in a cottage pie. But anyway.
No, it's potato, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
God. Yeah. Cool. That's my point.
Okay, well, it's just, luckily Sandra's gone anyway, so it's hypothetical. I'm not trying to fix anything up. Let's go to Mandy.
Right. Well, skills and stuff. I would really like to I could teach, video jockeying, VJing.
Yeah.
But in terms of stuff, I'd like to learn more about DIY and how to use power tools.
Right.
You know, I mean, I just kind of I had to hire a handyman the other day to do some stuff around the house, and I'd like to be able to do a lot of stuff myself more, sort of making things. Yeah.
Any particular thing you'd like to fix or need to fix?
Well, no, not now, but I mean, there was a mirror that had to go up on the wall, and then a toilet seat that had to be fixed, and a bed thing that had to be sorted.
So there's a lot going on, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd like to
so
have done it myself.
I believe, Stephen, have you got anything? Unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I need someone to show me how to run a Zoom session, because
Right, okay.
I run music workshops, but everyone's going online and I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
Be a
Okay.
director.
There might be people to help you here.
What I could offer.
Yeah.
Actually offer that Zoom music session. So
Okay, right. So once you've got, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from there. So
Yeah.
would you like to learn a bit about music, Joshua? No, you're not that bothered. Okay. Okay, so I believe that's called a skills audit we've just done, isn't it? So skills audit. But has it been helpful? Has it been useful? I don't know. It's a bit of chat as far as I'm concerned. I'm not really that bothered about, the outcomes. It's up to you to do the outcomes. My job is simply to get the conversation going. But I guess it's up to you to decide where you want to take this conversation. How could we be sharing our skills more? You've got your bag on your shoulder, which suggests that you're about to leave, but it means we need to get a final thought from you. And it could be around this idea of this skills library or this human library or whatever you want to call it. Are we sharing our skills or our stuff enough? Could we be doing it more? Let's have a few comments as a final thought to throw in for the rest of the conversation.
I think my final thought would be like Ecode, the place that you mentioned. Was it Ecode? The Hub, sorry.
Yeah.
The Hub, places like the Hub, places like Poplar Union. There's some great ones in Woolwich and Greenwich called ArtFix as well. I think places like that are community-based, art spaces, discussion spaces should perhaps try to become more interlinked in like a certain geographical area.
Yeah. Are they linking with their area enough?
Yeah, because I think as well there's like a lot of overlap, between like Haggerston, Greenwich, Woolwich, Poplar here, Limehouse, and I think that perhaps the things that everyone wants to do are very similar, and I think with more interconnectivity and more passionate people working together, that perhaps the outcomes would be greater. Or
okay, so what you're saying,
as reaching more people, perhaps.
What you're actually saying is they should be linking with each other more.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay.
And because perhaps somewhere like the Union might not have a tango or a salsa class for months, but ArtFix in Greenwich could have on the next day, and then they could be but Poplar Union has a talk show, we don't have one of those, so you guys go there, and I think it would just help make the community larger.
We can actually sort of between community venues have kind of skill swaps and swap your flamenco for your tango kind of thing. I'll take your tango and raise you fandango, whatever it is. Marie, final thought. Give us a final thought.
I'd just like to say that I think even this experience has been a really interesting and exciting community experience, because we just came out today for a walk and to kind of really badly skateboard.
Yeah,
But
that's something that, that's a skill
speaking
share.
for myself, very badly skateboarding. But I would never have chatted to any of you today and found out your innermost thoughts and feelings about the community. And bird calls. Would never have known that. So it's been a lovely experience, and these kind of conversations should keep happening.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, we try and do it. Well, if you're local, come to Aberfeldy Live, which is not more than a stone's throw away from here. If you want more of this, we're doing it next Thursday.
Wow, thanks so much.
Thanks very much, guys. It was nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I feel like we're going into the final home straight now because we've got 15 minutes really to go. What have we failed to cover? What subjects do we need to talk about? So far today we've talked about the death of culture and the venues closing down. We've talked about the government helping out or not helping out. We've talked about what else have we talked about? We talked about British sense of pragmatism and common sense. We've talked about the rules and following the rules. We've talked about COVID and the second peak and the second wave. We've talked about universal basic income. That was that got people in, didn't it? That was free money got people in. And then we talked about investing in the community, and then we talked about what sort of things should we be doing in the community. And then now we're here. We had a skills audit, and we know that there's a lot of skills about, and maybe we should share them more. And that's where we are right now. But this is your show, people, so where do you want to take it from here for the last 15 minutes? What have we not talked about? Oh, hang on. You can't spontaneously interject on this table. Go on, sorry. Yeah.
I should understand this more than I do. I was cycling, and I was cycling from like Stokey, which is quite wealthy, I guess. I was cycling south, and then it gets more into Talbots and stuff. And I was just sort of scratching my head and saying, why do we have inequality like this? And I don't fully understand it. But what I do see is like here we all are, like quite dense housing in Poplar, and just over there, like quite a lot of money happening. And somehow we should get some of that money over here, like corporate sponsorship, corporate investment. Local money sharing somehow.
Yeah, because it seems to be a lot of wealth just almost in touching distance if you were Mr. Tickle.
Yeah.
But
how much of it does...
Yeah, how much of it goes...
Mikey, I can't hear you properly.
That's because I turned myself down because of the wind. I was basically was just saying the wealth. There's huge wealth. I'm just going to turn... No, I can't turn this around. It's taped down. But just... like off camera, there's huge skyscrapers. It's Canary Wharf. There's lots of money. There's Barclays. There's HSBC. They're the ones with signs, but there's other people that don't have signs. Citibank. As you can see on Margot's one, how come we've got in this city we've got huge wealth and we've got actual proper poverty, and the most people somewhere in between, more down the one side than the other. Should or could or would or might we share the wealth a bit more somehow? And how is that going to happen? Is basically the question that Brian...
Only there were a system. I actually think, that has been established because there's a tax base. Unfortunately, it's not being enforced.
Yeah.
It's not being updated as times change. There's being too much... Lagresse for businesses, especially very large corporations, especially multinational.
Lagresse.
That was my attempt at French. Am I right? You speak French. Is that the right word? I was probably saying it wrong. Every time I attempt a bit of French,
what do you mean?
It means like hands off.
Okay, so they've been given too much freedom,
Everyone
really.
knows what I'm trying to say, right?
Laissez-faire.
Thank you.
Laissez-faire. Okay.
Do you mean Lagresse?
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Lagresse means similar.
Okay.
Yes, but
yeah.
So I think that there is a system in place, but it has been so eroded. And I mean, the only hope is that we still are in a democracy. And I really think that we need to start demanding better because it's not happening.
We're going to vote for the people that will tax these guys more.
Yes, and we need to support candidates that have that sort of a mindset, which means getting involved in the political process much earlier than I know I typically tend to get involved. I get involved after the parties have selected whomever they're going to put forth, which is way too late.
Right. Okay, Colleen?
I think, we have to hold our politicians and we have to hold people accountable basically and shout about it. I don't know, write to our MPs and post things on Twitter or anywhere you can shout about things and make yourself heard. And this is a good platform for that, I guess.
So if we just keep talking about it, eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah, you have to hold people accountable.
Okay. Was there a point?
Yeah, it's just that last night I was watching a documentary which was very, very good. It's called Knock Down the House, and it's about how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other women run for the Congress and how they got in there in America. And that was a documentary filmed in 2018 where there was literally very little chance for her and other women to get elected, yet they did it. And it was just really inspiring.
How did they do it?
They did it in a way that it was talking to people face to face and flyering and just, you know, but they had their community of people who wanted things done differently behind them. So they were kind of like the champions of what that community wanted to change, and the changes were individual. You know, they were slightly different depending on the region because they were like region specific and addressing those local issues. Right. But I think there was like a really big kind of push for things to change, and everyone's like, wow, is it going to happen? But actually the being in the community, that talking to the people, with the people and speaking their language I know what you're going through. I'm a waitress too, and I'm doing this, I want to be a congresswoman gig on the side because that's just the reality. That's why having universal basic income to me is just, it would be great, but having always worked in my life, I just don't, I don't know how, it's just a strange concept to be given money to do whatever you want. I need to like break some barriers inside of me to accept that.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of like summarize that as work. Basically, you need to do work to get these things to happen.
It's just one way.
Okay, so what do we think? Do we all agree with the conjecture on this side of the table that if only we just worked a bit harder at talking to people and tweeting and writing to your MP? I mean, do you think that what do you think of the situation? Do you think that it is right or wrong that you've got very rich people and very not so rich people? Is it something we need to change, or is that just how the world is?
To me, I think we should be like equal, like everybody have the same amount of money, stuff like that.
Why are we not, in your opinion?
Because I feel like, rich people have like everything what they need, like us, like not just us, like people like poor, they don't have like houses to keep them warm or food to eat. They have to like find somewhere to eat.
And who do you think it's down to make it a bit more even? Joshua, go on, do you want to grab that one?
The presidents and the prime ministers.
You think it is, but how do you get them to actually change the way they work or what they think?
You start making YouTube videos.
Okay, so YouTube videos is the answer. Okay, well, we're going to put this on YouTube, aren't we? Are we going to put this on YouTube? Possibly. Maybe we might put it on YouTube. So as a start, if everyone's happy with that, if you're not, then please do say, because we can always hit the delete button. Okay, so more YouTube videos. Do people genuinely agree with this idea that we should have less inequality and we should try and reduce this? And how are we going to do it? Is it about YouTube videos, tweeting, talking to people? It seems to be there's a consensus there, yeah?
I don't know.
Yeah?
And footballers getting too much money. And doctors don't get that much as footballers. And footballers just kick a ball into the net.
Okay. Is that more difficult or easier than being a doctor?
Easier.
Easier, okay. Yeah. Okay.
But
okay.
It's hard because they have like longer shift than footballers. Like, say if you're a doctor or a nurse, you work since 6 o'clock to like maybe like 7, and you be home tired.
Yeah.
And then footballers just like kickball, as he said, kickball, and just sit down, train, drink. I don't know what else they would do, but yeah. So mainly, I think you should share it around the world, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or like any social stuff for this. Yeah.
Okay, so just share stuff around a little bit more. I sort of feel like we're coming to the kind of final thoughts bit. We've only got a few minutes left, so maybe it's time to gather those final thoughts. Whether you're online, like these people here. Oh no, that's the wrong camera. Anyway, these people here. We've got so many cameras, they're so complicated here. Maybe it's time to get final thoughts for all of this. I mean, in a way, this session has been really interesting because it feels like everything that we've talked about we've been here 3 hours, everyone's agreed on. And it's more, you know, not even really disagreed really on anything, but everyone's sort of...
I don't think you're right.
Okay, finally. But, you know, is that a reflection of how Poplar thinks? Is Poplar quite kind of in agreement about stuff? Is there anything that people disagree about in Poplar? That's one question I'm supposed to ask at the end. Do people, and are we going to be able to, well, how are things going to go? We talked a lot about how the world's going to go after COVID. I mean, are people feeling optimistic, not optimistic? Maybe we could ask that as a final thought. But yeah, let's just get a final thought from everybody. Joshua.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the fishies right now because we just put in plastic in the seas.
Okay. Okay, so you're more concerned about the fish and the pollution. We're actually doing a special session on that at some point. I don't know if it's booked the actual time, but watch this space. We'll give you a card. We are doing a plastic pollution special in probably a month's time. But it's a big question. The plastic, the pollution. I've got this bottle of water. Maybe I should have just gone for reusable, but it's fizzy. Do you know what I mean? Okay, let's get some final thoughts. Final thoughts. Online people, have you got final thoughts?
Yeah, I really like the fact that there is an online section with this. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mikey, for sorting it. I just had this other thought about community spaces in Poplar and also other parts of the UK too.
Yeah.
And they're talking about money being allocated. I just had this thought popped into my head. Why can't the government give grants to premises to allow them to renovate them to allow for social distancing? Because a lot of places had to close because they could, like cafes, and shops, because there's no social distancing physically possible. So actually to have grants available so that premises can be adapted for, obviously for disabled people and things like that, but to allow for social distancing as well, you know. Yeah.
So a little bit of money going into just to be able to adapt to this new reality. Ellen, you've got your hand up as well.
Yeah, I mean, you put a question out there. Are you optimistic about the future? Yes, I'm optimistic about the future. I think there's going to be some tough times ahead, but I think, you know, things will get better.
How are they going to get better?
I just think that as a human race, we're always going to work hard to try and make good out of negativity. I mean, we've seen that through lockdown during the pandemic, you know, which is so awful, you know. So much life has been lost, but within that, you had people trying to, you know, alleviate some of the intensity. So, yeah, I'm optimistic.
Okay,
you have to, otherwise, you just, without optimism, you know, I don't know, it's just a depressing time. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got to be optimistic. We have to be optimistic, says Ellen. Let's get some final thoughts from around the table, the tables around the table. Are you optimistic about the future?
I feel like, for me, I feel like COVID-19 is probably going to end pretty soon.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then we just have to keep praying about it, stuff like that.
Okay, but are you optimistic or not optimistic?
For me, yeah. Don't know what else to say.
You're not sure? Are you not sure? You don't have to have an opinion on it.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Joshua, are you optimistic? Are you not optimistic?
I'm optimistic.
You're optimistic. Why?
One is because
Yeah.
I'm not really sure actually.
Maybe it's just a way of being. Let's go around this. Siraj, have you got a final thought for us? Let's. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So looking at the facts on the ground, for the short term, it's going to be a bit difficult for many people.
Yeah.
But in the long term, I'm sure that it's going to all get better, much
Yeah.
better.
But is the world going to be different or the same? Are we going to learn anything from this?
Yeah, sure. But some of the chief lessons that we have learned, we already knew them. It's just that we didn't realize the gravity of actually implementing them.
Right.
But now we know that this is real stuff. And we have to implement it.
So in a way, we've learned. Learning isn't just about knowing stuff. It's also about really doing stuff as well.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. Final. Have you got a final thought, Colleen?
Well, I'm kind of worry, well, in my own like field and like museums, heritage, there's been like huge redundancies, and it's quite worrying for the arts that, and like there was a big announcement this week from the National Trust that they're completely changing their 10-year strategy, so they're actually closing up, they're not investing in like sort of their buildings. Basically they're kind of going through this process where they're going to be more closed to the public, and
So
they're
they're
going to
closing museums, is that what you say?
well, they're focusing on their green spaces. There's going to be less like things like exhibitions and like opening up of these houses, so that's quite sad. So yeah, it looks like there's going to be lots of changes and things closing up,
Trouble ahead.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's a bit worrying.
Okay. Not so optimistic. Stacia, are you optimistic, unoptimistic? And what about this question? Actually, before I go to you, let me just ask Colleen as well. Do you think we're learning from this? Are we learning in the way that Siraj is talking about, in terms of like doing stuff that we already knew we should be doing, or do you think we're not?
I found it like, well, I am quite hopeful in another sense, because I feel like we kind of rediscovered like local communities and how we can like support each other and support each other in our local communities, which has been really good.
Okay, so there is a kind of silver lining side to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stacia?
Eternally optimistic, but I think that it requires action. I don't think that we can be complacent, because I do think that people are going to have to use our numbers to leverage and demand that things change.
Okay. How do we do that? How are we going to have to do that? Is that going to involve?
Luckily, we do live in a democracy, so the systems are there. I know that I personally have not been making enough use of them.
Yeah.
Throughout my adult life, which is easy to do. We're very focused on, ourselves, our careers, our own lives. But I think it's time to get more organized, is what I think.
More organized, more involved in politics, I suppose. Fabian, you got a final thought?
I am quite optimistic, but because even though things are closing down and things look bleak, the demand for like creative stuff like this, it still remains. So as long as people want to go out, people want to visit museums or all these kind of things, as long as that remains, then things should open back up again.
Okay, so in a way, that demand for creativity will always be there. Yeah. Bryony, final thought?
Can I have a pre-final thought?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, yeah.
I sort of stayed as Stacia. I had a great democracy moment recently. Can I tell you about my great democracy moment? I read in The Guardian this article saying it looks like youth in prison in solitary confinement are going to have to be in solitary until 2022 because of COVID. And I read it and I was like, that's friggin' gnarly. So I wrote to my MP. I said, I'm really concerned. Can you do anything? He said, God, that looks friggin' gnarly. Yeah, I'm really concerned. He wrote to the Justice Minister, got a letter back from the Justice Minister, and all the letter was actually quite technical and quite political, and I was like, I don't completely understand everything in this letter. But I was like, it's like between the newspaper and the citizen and the MP and the ministry, it's like,
yeah,
it's a sense of democracy working, and they know that we're paying attention, and they know that we care about each other, and we'll write letters for each other, people we've never met, and I like that. So
when MPs get letters, do they go, oh, not another letter? They go, hey, I got mail. Do they sort of, are they happy about it or unhappy?
Ben, like my MP, he's so lovely. You write to him, he says, thank you so much. He's a Welshman, but maybe that's it. He's like, thank you so much for your letter. I really care about this too. And he does his best. You feel that he's doing his best. Yeah. I think we all need Plaid Cymru. The Welsh should take over Britain for a while.
So maybe it's time the Welsh took over Britain. Another controversial opinion.
But I do have a final thought.
Okay, well, we can go, because what I always do is I actually go, when I get people's final thoughts, then I say to people, have you got a final thought? So there's always a second bite of the cherry, so to speak. Let me come to the online audience. Any final thoughts from the online audience? People have got their hands up, but I believe that's from the last one. Stephen, what's your final thought?
Yeah, this bit about inequality. I think it's really important, inequality aside, that people have their basic needs met. And earlier on, the government made a commitment that nobody should be homeless. And I think really they should
be made to stick to that. I think that is a real threat, especially as winter's coming.
Yeah. Okay. So
people aren't going to be evicted for another month. Well, big deal. So that bothers me more than actual financial inequality. Actually, that's more important. It doesn't actually bother me that much that people are richer than me, as long as they're doing something useful, as long as they're not trashing the planet, which I know a lot of them are. But that's not the point. I don't really care. The basic needs is important to me.
Okay, so meet people's basic needs. That's more important than equality.
To me, financial equality, yeah. As a start.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Thanks for sticking with us from the very beginning. You've been watching us for 3 hours. I hope you felt a sense of a journey in that time. Ellen, Mandy, have you got any final thoughts? I guess I'm going to. Oh yeah, Ellen, go on.
Yeah, just a story, just a scenario that the previous speaker said about getting in touch with their MP. I found that quite inspiring, actually. So I've been meaning to get in touch with my MP. So I think I'm actually going to do it this week.
What is that about?
Well, during the whole Black Lives Matter the Black Lives Matter issue, on social media, people are saying that we should get in touch with our MPs and demand that Britain stop selling rubber bullets to America.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just
one
going
to get on it and just
that we can do. So yeah, actually do it. It's reminding me that I should.
Yeah. So just get that. Open up the computer. Well, you've got the computer open already. Just switch tabs to whatever Microsoft Words.
Yeah.
Yeah. They work for you. Just get straight on to They Work For You, which is a website, I believe, isn't it? Okay. Paul hasn't got a mic on him at the moment, so I'm just going to say it. Okay, it's time for final thoughts. What about these oh, okay. Well, it's kind of been done now, hasn't it?
Okay, yeah, they work for you.
.what?
.com, yeah.
.com?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Anyway, all right, well, you can just Google it, I suppose, if it isn't theyworkforyou.com. Okay, any final thoughts? Joshua, have you got a final thought? What's the YouTube channel? VEPSnet. So VEPSnet. THEPSNET. That's our YouTube channel. Check it out. There's a lot of stuff there. What's that? Final thought, Ellen?
Oh yeah, and also don't forget to follow The People Speak on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
The conversation continues on both Twitter and Instagram. We are there and we're waiting to chat to you.
Okay, anyone might think that you actually work for The People Speak the way you're going on like that. Okay, any final thoughts? Brian, have you got any? Yeah. Hang on. Okay, Paul, over here. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I put one in then? I just think
you didn't have your final thought. Never mind your final thought.
It's about the sort of intergenerational harmony. I think young people are going to have a really tough time as things are going on because there's a lot more older people than young people, and that's a general population shift across many places. And I think it's really useful to be able to understand that a lot of older people are going to be a little bit more conservative with a little C, and young people are going to be struggling with a big S. And I think both parties need to understand each other a bit more.
Okay, so we need more intergenerational stuff going on. That's a really good point. Bryony, let me come to you for your final thought.
I think that's a really beautiful point. This morning I was listening to my friend's album. He's made an album under COVID, and one of the songs, the lyric is, "The earth says heal me, and if you can't heal me, take my disease." And it's such a powerful line. And so I think, COVID coming out of ecological malpractice having such an effect, and then California is on fire right now. That's where I've been most of the last 10 years, and the valley where I was living is on fire right now. And it's like, I think it feels like a conversation between the planet and the people at the moment. Like how are we gonna do this century, this lifetime? And so I don't know if I'm optimistic or pessimistic, but I think this whole era raises massive questions for us, and I think people are having some time to reflect and think about what's important and what they want to do with their lives, and hopefully that's a good thing.
A little bit of time to reflect. Well, we're gonna have a lot of time to reflect after this talkaoke. Over chips, probably, yeah. At Perfect Fried Chicken, we're going to go to our community hub, which is Perfect Fried Chicken, and get some chips in. Unless anyone's got any final thoughts, either online or is that it? Is that going to one fight? Siraj, final thought?
Yeah, I just hope that we as a society don't make permanent decisions based on this temporary condition, because it's only going to last for a couple of years. But we are closing restaurants, we are closing social establishments. And if the rate continues to go on like the way it has in the last few months, then many of these places won't open again when the world will look a much different place, and when we'll be needing those establishments. So I just hope that doesn't continue the way it has.
I think we're going to leave it there. So let's have a round of applause for everybody. Thanks so much, everybody, online and here in the park. Thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate it. And thanks to Rick that's been working the machines today.
And thank you, a big
Rodney
shout
and
out.
Fabian as well.
Absolutely. Thank you to Poplar Union for having us next to this wonderful container. We contained ourselves today, which was good. But we will be continuing some conversations in Poplar down in 27 Aberfeldy Street on Thursday, 27th of August. So pop in and follow Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We don't have TikTok.
We don't, not yet anyway.
Which maybe is fine. So and big shout to Mikey for 3 hours of relentless talking and pun making.
It was listening as well. You know,
and listening.
The only reason I listen so intently is to try and find something I can make a pun about. So.
And some people join us late. They will be doing the chip run, I think, for us. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much. Thanks to Poplar. Thanks so much for your thoughts and input. And together we can make it happen.
Woo!
Okay, adios.
Bye, online audience. Thanks so much. We're just going to give you a little wave.
All right. Okay, right.